The story of an ace pilot who is the only man in an alien army where chastity has been reversed. The battlefield belongs to women. Men should stay out of it. This is the era when the Verdians, an extraterrestrial intelligence, rule the galaxy. Hokuto Kaisai, an ace pilot from Earth, uses his exceptional piloting skills to drive the humanoid mobile weapon Striker as a mercenary. The battlefield belongs to women. Men should stay out of it. This is the era when the Verdians, an extraterrestrial intelligence, rule the galaxy. Hokuto Kaisai, an ace pilot from Earth, uses his exceptional piloting skills to drive the humanoid mobile weapon Striker as a mercenary. On the battlefield, he is a warrior. But when he gets off the plane, he is nothing more than a poor man from Earth. Will there ever be a day of rest for Truzai, who is being targeted, sexually, by the Verds, who have a high sex drive and physical ability? Back. CH1. Kaisai touchdown. Sir, please wake up. Feeling someone shaking his shoulder, Kaisai woke up from his sleep. When he opened his eyes while letting out a big yawn, he saw a middle-aged woman in a suit. Yes, Kaisai replied with a fuzzy voice and looked around. He is currently sitting in a shabby lobby lined with old resin chairs. There's an electric board displaying flight information installed in front of him. I'm sorry. It was a long trip so I was a little tired. The middle-aged woman blushed a little when Kaisai spoke to her with a smile. The reason is Kaisai's appearance. He is a very beautiful boy with a delicate build that even most models and idols would envy him for. It's okay, the middle-aged woman replied with a bitter smile. On top of the woman's head, there is a pair of wolf ears. However, Kaisai doesn't seem to mind such bodily features that clearly don't belong to a normal human. Are you traveling alone, sir? Well, yes. It's a work thing. Oh, the woman exclaimed with a slightly surprised voice and observed Kaisai. He is currently wearing a pair of thick jeans and a vintage flight jacket, so she couldn't think of him as a normal worker at all. Do you have someone to pick you up, sir? As you know, this planet is relatively safe, but it is still dangerous for a man to walk around alone. Yes, I know. But it seems that the other party is occupied at the moment, so. Saying so, Kaisai glanced at the mobile terminal he had taken out from his pocket and looked at the time. He frowned for a moment, but he immediately switched back to his smile. I'm really sorry. It seems that I overslept a little. I'm going to be late for a meeting, so I have to go now. Kaisai stands up and grabs the handle of his small luggage case which lies at his feet. Thank you for waking me. See you around. Why, yes. Please be careful. After a light bow to the woman, Kaisai sprinted out the front door of the lobby. He walks a little distance and then looks back. Behind him was a small building he just left from and a massive structure piercing the sky that dwarfed the former. A mass driver rail. Next to the building is a large sign that says, Bazaria Spaceport TLN. A mass driver or electromagnetic catapult is a proposed method of non-rocket space launch which would use a linear motor to accelerate and catapult payloads up to high speeds. All existing and contemplated mass drivers use coils of wire energized by electricity to make electromagnets. Sequential firing of a row of electromagnets accelerates the payload along a path. After leaving the path, the payload continues to move due to momentum. Now then, looking forward again, Kaisai opened a map app on his mobile terminal. However, all he got from it was a merciless message saying, this star system is not currently supported. With a frown, Kaisai started walking again. 2 hours later, Kaisai found himself in a back alley with sweat drenching his forehead. He now has a paper map in his right hand and his flight jacket is now folded and tucked away under his left arm. I'm beat. Although his destination should be around here according to the map, he was completely lost. While wiping the sweat off his face, Kaisai looks up at the sky. The bluish sun is glaring down from above. With it being this bright, nothing can escape such intense sunlight. And it is supposed to be winter here. This is messed up. It was when I complained aloud to myself that a group of girls appeared out of nowhere and stood in front of him. Oi, Nichan, what are you doing alone out here? Did you get lost? The girls all have a somewhat scary grin on their faces and they all dressed in outfits that anyone would find it hard to compliment them about. Just like the middle-aged woman from earlier, the girls all have beast ears on top of their heads. With a bitter expression on his face, Kaisai immediately decided to run away. However, faster than he could react, The tallest girl grabbed his chest and casually lifted him up. Although Kaisai has a delicate physique, the girl who is currently lifting him is hardly well built. It is a strange scene. Didn't your mama teach you? There are a lot of scary people outside, you know. Saying so, the girl pushes Kaisai against the wall of a nearby house and licks his cheek. I'm in a hurry, so can you let me off if I give you money? Money? Do I look like I need money? The girl let go of his lapel and tossed Kaisai to the ground. You should know, right? The exact thing we want. With that said, she put her hand on Kaisai's pants. Is this some kind of bad joke? Kaisai tried to resist, but he was completely subdued by her strength. It was like he was pushing against a heavy machine. Being subjected to such strength himself, he doesn't think that a normal or even a big muscular man can push her off. Moreover, with him being physically weaker than your average man, he stands no chance of getting away through strength alone. The other side also seems to realize that it is a futile resistance, so her movement turned to a tease. Her face flushed and her gesture gradually turned beast-like. It is a hopeless situation. However, a quiet yet audible sharp voice interrupted them. What are you doing? At the source of the voice is a girl with snow-white hair. She is dressed in elegant military uniform and her aquamarine-like eyes coldly glared at the girls. What? You want to get in our way? Of course, I am. I can't let a violent bunch like yours roaming around freely after all. Hearing that, the girl loosens her grip and provocatively smiles at the new arrival. Kaisai tried to get away immediately, but he was restrained again by another girl. Aren't you getting a little ahead of yourself here? M''S. Soldier. Saying so, the thug girl hit the military uniform girl. Albeit being thin, her speed was faster than Kaisai's eyes could perceive, and her punch also has a powerful force behind it. HMPH. However, her fist was easily parried by the military uniform girl's hand. She then grabbed the thug girl's outstretched arm and twisted it. Ouch, ouch. This much should be alright in a street fight like this, the military uniform girl said, and put more strength into the twist. Did you understand the difference between our abilities now? At that moment, the military uniform girl pulled out a revolver pistol from her waist holster at blinding speed and fired. Accompanying the dry sound of the gunshot, a knife that one of the other girls threw toward her chest danced in the air. You should hurry up and get lost. If you don't want to get hurt, that is. Fine, let me go. When the military uniform girl released her grip, the thug girl stood up and dusted her clothes while cursing at her. Let's go. Why, yes. As she walked away, her minions also followed behind her. The military uniform girl then extends her hand to Kaisai, who was left behind. Are you okay? Yes, I'm fine. Thank you very much. Kaisai stood up with her help and nodded. I'm glad. This is a dangerous neighborhood. I will walk you back to a safe place. I think that is not going to be necessary. Kaisai declined the military uniform girl's kind offer. He then stood up straight, looked into her eyes, and performed a salute. Princess Schleia Henrietta, correct. Hokuto Kaisai reporting for duty. Hokuto. Kaisai. Yes, I'm the mercenary that you hired. Hokuto Kaisai, at your service. Unlike earlier, Kaisai replied with a challenging smile. CH2 mercenaries work. I received the confirmation. It seems that you truly are Hokuto Kaisai. After a knock, Schleia said that to him as she entered through the door. It has been 30 minutes since Kaisai was asked to wait in this air-conditioned reception room. I never thought that the famous Hokuto Kaisai was actually a man. For Terran TLN, Earthling, having a male pilot is not that rare though. I'm sorry. You are the first Terran I've ever met. Schleia has a troubled smile as she gives him a small bow. We Volds never have men on the battlefield. After all, as she said, Schleia was not someone from Earth. The Volds is the current dominant race of the intergalactic community in this era where faster-than-light technology has become commonplace. The population ratio of Vold and Terran is 10,000 to 1. This makes the Terrans a race that you rarely see in space. Of course, I understand. It's okay. Even if I'm a man, I can guarantee my work. Vold is a race where females have superior physical strength. Furthermore, the distinction in gender roles for the Vold people is much stronger than the one that exists on Earth. Due to the racial trait where men are much unlikely to be born compared to women, it is common for Vold men to stay home and look after the family. The disparity in male and female birth rates for Vold is so much that it would be rare for you to see a man walking down the street. Why, yes, of course. Even with those words coming from her mouth, It is clear that she is still unconvinced. Well, let's leave that aside. Please tell me your current situation and what you'd like me to do. I have read some materials before this meeting, but I'd like to hear the information directly from you. I understand. Schlier nodded and operated the terminal which was installed in the table. A holographic projection of a star chart that belongs to the current star system is projected above the reception table. As you are aware, we, the Kalanshia Empire, are currently being invaded by a powerful empire called Nord, and our current situation doesn't look good. Most of the planets on the holographic map are marked red. The red areas seem to indicate Nord's area of influence. Their purpose for this invasion is our strategic resources and the territories that our people colonized. Since all they want is our land. They have been performing purge bombardment on our colonized planets. Purge bombardment is an act of indiscriminately bombing the planet's surface from satellite orbit to wipe out the population. In short, an act of genocide. So they go that far. Colonial wars are not that uncommon, but it is rare to see one that resorts to extreme means like this. Thinking so, Kaisai frowned at the situation. Naturally, there is no room for surrender negotiation. Our only hope to survive is to win this war. However, Schlier looks at the star chart. The difference between the fighting power of the two empires is just too much. Kalanshia Empire doesn't stand that much chance of winning this war. That's the reason we called for you, Hokuto Kaisai. There, wicked star. You have no hand left to play, so you asked for my help. Kaisai asked with a dry smile. This is not something that you should ask from an individual, isn't it? Yes. I understand that. However, we have no other way. Of course, we will do our best to support this endeavor as well. Please take a look at this. Saying so, Schlier stood up and opened the window curtain. Beyond the glass is an area that looks like an aircraft parking apron tarmac you can find in an airport. One of the most noticeable objects there is a huge humanoid machine. Despite looking at it from afar, the pure white armor-framed machine still seems to be quite large. It is probably well over a dozen meters. Hyperlight-speed tactical attack craft, commonly known as Striker. This is how wars are fought in this era. A giant humanoid mobile weapon. This is the state-of-the-art prototype from Kawashima Ironwork, the Excalibur. The new model from Kawashima. I've only heard rumors about this thing. It's a machine made by a Terran manufacturer, the same place of origin as Kaisai. Although Terrans have a huge disadvantage in population ratio, they make use of their technological know-how to sell various products to the Vulds to earn foreign currency. Weapons, including strikers, are one of the technology's Earth exports, and the Earth-made war machines are widely available throughout the galaxy. That armament has also arrived. You can sortie right away. Schlier said that as she pointed at Excalibur, with an expression saying, "How's that?" But a big explosion accompanied by a roaring sound occurred at the tarmac at the very same moment. Yua! A tremendous shockwave shatters the window pane and blows Kaisai along with the furniture in the room away. Unable to bear the brunt of the shockwave, Kaisai can only roll to the floor while screaming. What happened? Just like Kaisai, Schlier was also blown away, but she immediately stood up and pressed the communication button on the terminal at her ear. An orbital bombing? What? 2 battleships? What about our monitoring network? Schlier is screaming at the mic on her chest with a frustrated expression. However, her anger subsided after she turned her eyes to Kaisai, who was right next to her. Are you okay? Any injuries? She hurriedly tried to check Kaisai's body for injuries, but her face turned red and she stopped her hand. However, this is not the time to hesitate. After a gulp, she tries putting her hand on Kaisai's chest again. I'm okay. That was terrible. Before she could touch him, Kaisai regained his consciousness and got up, making a disappointing expression appear on Schlier's face for a moment. In order to hide that from Kaisai, Schlier hurriedly shook her head sideways. Oh, as expected, the Vuld people are really stir. Not that, you really are strong. So, what happened? It's an enemy attack. Anyway, let us evacuate to a safe area first. Excuse me. Just like that, Schlier easily carries Kaisai up. It's a princess carry. Excuse me. She seems to be embarrassed, but for some reason, her face seems to say, this is not that bad. Then, with a bright red face, Schlier started running with ferocious momentum. We have a command center in the basement. If it's that place, then they shouldn't be able to reach us unless they use a bunker buster. That's where we are going. That being said, Kaisai could do nothing but nod along repeatedly. CH-3, attack response. The enemy fleet consisted of 2 battleships and 4 mid-sized cruisers, ma'am, said the operator while pointing at the Crimson Space battleships projected on a large screen. This place is the general headquarters of the local planetary defense unit located deep underground. Inside, dozens of operators and officers are busily working while being illuminated by the dark red emergency lights. At the moment, enemy battleships still continue their surface bombardment from the orbit. We've also confirmed the descent of their striker unit, ma'am. They hit us right where it hurt, even though I went out of my way to hold this meeting on a remote planet like this. Maybe they've been tracking the new model. Kaisai groaned while recalling the appearance of the white humanoid mobile weapon on the tarmac. Unfortunately, the new model was lost forever before Kaisai could try piloting it due to their enemy's orbital bombardment. Yes, if our monitoring network couldn't pick them up, then it means that the enemy crafts has quite a stealth system. And the timing of their attack is too good. The enemy commander must be very sharp. This is bad, said Schleer as she folded her arms while gritting her teeth. They waited for the regular passenger ship to land and launched their attack at the timing where their target would surely be inside the base. If they were unlucky, both of them could have been killed immediately with the first strike. Your Highness, the defense unit of this planet can't possibly repel a fleet of this size. Can we expect any reinforcement? A female officer who seems to be one of the commanding officers of this base asked Schleer. I had the 3rd Fleet remain on standby in the Vizsla system so that they can launch a rescue in the unlikely event. But Vizsla, isn't that half a day away even for the fastest cruiser? We do not have that much time. In response to the hysterical officer, Schleer put her hand on her forehead. She is exactly right. Schleer had deliberately stationed her troops far away from this planet so that she could trick the enemy's eyes, but it completely backfired now. Well, it's no use crying over spilled milk now, Commander. With his hand tucked inside the pockets of his flight jacket, Kaisai fearlessly said that to the commander with a smile. For the time being, I will do something about this situation, so please lend me a striker. A striker? We have already sent out all the available strikers. We don't have any reserve, Colonel. We still have the Gradius Kai. One of the operators stood up and shouted. Her words were addressing the colonel, but her eyes were fixed on Kaisai. That's a makeshift machine forcibly remodeled from an outdated training craft. What good can it possibly do? No, that is enough for me. It's still better than nothing. Now, please guide me to this machine. Yes, sir. This Ulcaladison will guide you. The operator glided to Kaisai with a bright smile. Why she could not find any shred of urgency in this operator, the commander thought to herself as she held her head. 10 minutes after that, Kaisai, who changed into his own pilot suit, was heading to the hangar. I see. It really was haphazardly put together. A blue metal giant stood in front of Kaisai. Its height is about 12 meters. Calling this machine slim would be putting it nicely. After all, a clunky armor plate was forcibly welded into this unreliable-looking shabby machine. I guess that's fine. I don't really hate something like this anyway. He smiled and nodded at the operator who had been guiding his way here. Seeing that, her face turned bright red and she shook her head up and down. So, why are you in a pilot suit too, Your Highness? If I remember correctly, this unit should be the only one left here, right? Said Kaisai as he looked toward Schleer, who is now wearing an outfit made of a rubber-like material that snugly fits her body. This is a widely used suit for striker pilots, and Kaisai himself also wears a white one with a similar design. Of course, I'm going with you. Going with me? Kaisai replied with a frown. If it's designed for training, then this machine should have a double seat. If you are as good as the rumor says, then the safest place to be would be inside that cockpit with you. No, I can't afford to die out here after all. Wah! The operator tried to protest, but Schleer ignored her. Besides, that it was just an excuse. Schleer has never seen or heard of a male pilot before, and since they've just met, she honestly is still skeptical about his skills. She knows how to pilot a striker. If push comes to shove, she will be in a position where she can take control of the machine. Sure, Kaisai has his qualms about this as well, but as she is his employer, it's hard for him to protest strongly about it. He can also understand her distrust. That's why Kaisai nodded, albeit reluctantly, while the operator looked at them with an intense expression. Well, since we have no time to idling around, let's head off. With that said, They hopped on a cargo attached to the maintenance gantry crane. After they operated the control panel, they moved the cargo to the front of the cockpit hatch on the chest and the two climbed inside the cockpit. Damn, it's tight in here. The 12 meters Striker may seem to be large from the outside, but for a mobile weapon where a person is supposed to get inside to pilot, it could be said to be quite compact. Naturally, the usable space in the cockpit is limited. With it being a two-seater, it felt like being trapped inside an octopus trap here. The inside was divided into two parts, upper and lower. Schleer seated herself on the upper co-pilot seat while Kaisai sat down on the main pilot seat below. Due to the small space, Kaisai's head is located between Schleer's legs. There's no more awkward position than this. It's been a while since I piloted a double-seat machine, so I forgot, said Schleer with a flushed face. I'm sorry, but th. This is truly unavoidable. I am not trying to sexually harass you at all. There's no helping it. It's really inevitable. Is this the time to be saying that? Kaisai operated the console in front of him with a sigh. The cockpit hatch closed and the instrument lights inside the cockpit lit up at the same time. Hello, pilot. Now initiating boot sequence, said an AI voice that sounded like a boy. Then, the LCD panels mounted on the inside of the cockpit glow, displaying the image of their surroundings. System operational. Activating phase transition turbine. The high-pitched rotating sound can faintly be heard inside the cockpit. It seems that the main engine has started up. 0 point gate established. Phase transition turbine has reached criticality. Ready for mobilization. All right. With a grin, Kaisai puts his hands on the left and right control sticks. System, checked. Hardware, checked. Armaments, checked. Icon connection established. Now transferring control to the pilot. Good. It's all checked out here. Ready when you are. Operating the control, I connect the communication channel to the command room. Understood. The one who replied was the same operator that guided their way here, who had already returned to command since who knows when. Multiple enemy strikers are approaching the base. They have also suspended their orbital bombardment of this area. We are going to send you to the surface using a lift. Please intercept them, Kaisai-san. Roger that. Come to think of it, Schleer tapped on Kaisai's shoulder. The armament you requested is being kept in that container. Do you want to use it? There was a red container placed at the area Schleer pointed at. Don't mind me then. Nodding to her question, Kaisai approached the container and opened it. Inside, there was a rugged machine with a thin and pointy stake installed inside. Bile bunker. This is the armament that is synonymous with the Wicked Star. Right. I think that it is a fairly rational weapon, though. I've always wondered why no one beside me uses it. While whispering that to himself, Kaisai attached the bile bunker on the striker's left arm. Are you going to use other weapons? It seems there's only an anti-ship grenade launcher left. Well, I will manage. Except for the bazooka-type armament that launches anti-ship missiles, the armory was empty. You wouldn't find yourself in a situation like this in a well-supplied unit, but unfortunately, this is a military base on a remote planet. It made sense that the other pilot would grab everything else besides the anti-ship grenade launcher, which is difficult to hit an enemy striker with. However, Kaisai mounted the anti-ship grenade launcher on his striker's waist without any complaints. He also didn't forget to attach the spare ammunition as well. All right, shall we? Saying so, Kaisai slapped his cheeks with both his hands and advanced the Gradius Kai to the lift platform. CH4. Hey, you heard the rumors that their Wicked Star is somewhere in this system? In the cockpit of a striker flying through the dusty atmosphere of Bizaria, a young female pilot spoke to her wingman in a carefree voice. There, Wicked Star. You mean that Wicked Star? Yeah, it's kind of a bad omen. Once you see it on the battlefield you are gone. Or so they say. Seriously? That's bad for us, right? Replied the wingman with an upset voice. One of the rumors that are widespread among striker pilots is the rumor about this unrivaled mercenary, their Wicked Star. And this one is supposed to be an easy mission too. The wingman muttered to herself. Their enemy's surveillance network was loose. The interceptors they deployed were all outdated models, a simple mission where they should be able to complete in less than half a day. She would feel depressed to get shot down in such a mission. Stop spouting nonsense already, a rough husky voice interrupting their conversation. It's their platoon leader. With that attitude, you all should be more worried about a stray bullet from some newbie pilots rather than the Wicked Star, you know. Hearing that mocking voice, the pilot's mouth formed straight into a single line. If the rumors are true, then this Wicked Star is apparently a cute boy, you know. Don't you want to try capturing him and mess him up? In response, the pilot reflexively looks at the photo she had pinned up on her console. It's a photo of a beautiful half-naked young male model. The pilot then gently licks her lips. That's true. After all, living in the female-only army, she has a lot of pent-up sexual desire. Well, even if we can't get this Wicked Star's armor, there should be a few catches in the city here. We are on such a remote planet after all. The higher-up wouldn't care if we let loose a little, right? Really? The wingman raises a joyful voice. Of course, but the first priority is the mission. According to the information we received, there should be an elevator hatch where the enemy used to dispatch their interceptors in this area. Find it. Following the command of their platoon leader, they activated their sensor and scanned the area. Something strange. There it is. An elevator hatch for strikers. Although it was disguised well, it was not that difficult to find, since all they had to do was scan the area where their intelligence department narrowed down for them in advance. Alright, all units descend to ground level. Check the hatch to see if it's a dummy. If we hit the jackpot, then we will call for reinforcement. Understood? Yes, Mom. The motivated female pilots loudly replied and landed their strikers on the wasteland. The reddish-brown dust rolled up by the thrusters, raising a cloud of dust. Captain, my vibration sensor picked up a movement. The enemy may be coming up this elevator as we speak. HMPH, like a moth to a flame. How pitiful. Arity, I'm leaving this to you. Roger that. The girl called Arity readied her blaster rifle. The aim is, of course, the elevator hatch. Her finger is on the control stick and she can shoot the enemy striker as soon as it emerges from the hatch. An easy kill. This is going to be delicious. Meanwhile, Kaisai went ho-ho inside the cockpit of Gradius Kai, which is currently riding on the said elevator. Wah, what is it? Nah, it's nothing. Kaisai casually responded. 10 seconds to the surface. The striker's AI announced with an emotionless voice. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The bright light illuminated their cockpit monitors when they reached the surface. At the same time, a red beam of light headed straight toward them. Something like that won't work on me. Kaisai's shout echoed out even before Slia realized that an enemy striker just fired upon them. The incoming red beam was repelled by the green blade of the photo saber in Gradius Kai's right hand. Enemy strikers. 3 red strikers armed to the teeth were displayed on the main monitor. The AI on board Gradius Kai then automatically scanned their model and the word RMX-55 Jetta was displayed on the monitor. But this is, however, for some reason, there was a large hole that seemed to have been caused by an intense heat ray in the abdomen of the striker that is currently holding a blaster rifle. A moment later, accompanied by a loud rumbling sound, their Jetta collapsed. It got deflected back with a saber. Only the captain was able to correctly assess this bizarre situation. She gnashed on her teeth and readied the rifle, then fired upon the enemy with no hesitation. The red beam flew toward Gradius Kai, but Kaisai calmly deflected it again using the photon saber. With a high-pitched sound, the beam was deflected back to the shooter again. Just like what a batter does in baseball. The captain's striker was barely able to block the deflected beam with the shield attached to the left arm. However, as he already anticipated that, Kaisai activated his thrusters and immediately approached the captain. Bastard. Seeing that the only long-range armament on there, Gradius Kai, is only the anti-ship grenade launcher, the captain immediately abandoned her rifle and pulled out her photon saber from the weapon rack on the striker's shoulder. I will hold this guy off. Take a distance and use your rifle. The captain's striker is stopping Kaisai's rush with its photon saber. However, at the moment the two strikers collided, Kaisai pulled back the control stick and stepped on the pedal at his foot with all his might. There, Gradius Kai immediately flew up and retreated, leaving a smoke cloud covering the captain's striker. Trying to blind me? Useless trick. Even with the optical camera blinded, the striker has both radar and infrared sensors equipped. She doesn't lose track of her enemy. After the Gradius Kai landed with a roaring sound, The captain charged her striker directly toward it. Eat this. However, at the receiving end of her red photon saber was not the body of the Gradius Kai, but a green saber instead. On top of not being able to cope with her enemy's minor movement using the sensor alone, her striker also stepped on uneven ground and lost its balance. Then, Kaisa lightly ignited his thrusters. A light shock shook the cockpit of the Gradius Kai. With a linear guide mechanism, the stake was discharged and plunged itself into the enemy's striker's stomach. One left. The dull-colored stake wet with hydraulic oil returns to its original position using the winding mechanism. With the engine located in the abdomen area destroyed, the captain's striker instantly ceased all function and collapsed. Bunker. No way, there, wicked star. The last pilot bitterly screamed and half instinctively pulled the trigger of her rifle. The muzzle of her blaster rifle flashed and a red beam was discharged from it. However, if you are that desperate, then you should have just retreated. The beam was easily deflected by the photon saber. Kaisai then floored the pedal and accelerated toward the last enemy striker. In the cockpit of Gradius Kai, a lock-on warning was ringing loudly to warn the pilot. Schleier's face completely turned blue as the chill traveled down her spine from the warning. At the same time, the enemy pilot who had already lost it repeatedly fired her rifle toward the approaching Gradius Kai. Once, twice, or thrice. It doesn't change the outcome no matter how many beams she fired. Finally, she completely gave up and abandoned her rifle as she turned to flee. The moment she tried to ignite the thruster to flee to the sky, a stake pierced her striker from the back. Accompanied by a roaring noise, their jetter was blown away, taking a good chunk of dirt with it. Then, Kaisai ceased the movement of his striker. With a motor sound, the stake that was glowing black was stored back inside the injection cylinder. For the time being, I just took down 3 strikers. Is that enough to prove my skills? Kaisai asked Schleier with a little dissatisfied voice. On the other hand, Schleier could only nod. It's more than enough. CH5, the Wicked Star. 7th. The stake made out of special alloy found its way through another red striker's abdomen. Just like a marionette with its strings cut, the enemy striker collapsed on the asphalt-paved road. The battlefield has changed from a reddish-brown wasteland to an urban area. It appears that the evacuation was already completed and there's no need to worry about civilians here. Concentrate your fire. Overwhelm that striker with firepower. Several jetters aim their machine guns and blaster rifles at Kaisai. At the same time, their Gradius Kai kicked the ground and its blue thruster exhaust burned the afternoon sky above the city. Do you think the enemy opened fire? Thanks to his prompt evasive maneuver, most beams and shells cut through the empty space and destroyed the uninhabited buildings. However, the strikers wielding machine guns which have a high fire rate still track their Gradius Kai. You can take me down. A large number of 30mm shells flew toward Kaisai, who warded them all off with his photon saber. The sound of blaster beams burning the atmosphere and the sound of shells being evaporated mixed together and created a nightmare concerto. The metal shells, which were mostly turned into steam, generated black smoke and fell back down to the city. With this much firepower, while literally mowing down the bullets flying toward him, he quickly approaches the shooters. TSK. Damn you. One of the jetters throws away their machine gun and pulls out a photon saber from its shoulder rack. However, faster than the blade could be formed, a powerful kick hits the jetter's arm. The photon saber was sent flying and the pilot could only stiffen at her imminent death. I won't let you. Her wingman stepped in with a thrust from her own photon saber and prevented Kaisai's pursuit. She thrust her photon saber out with all her might to protect her comrade, but that left her thruster wide open. You've got guts, Kaisai shouts with a ferocious smile. He twisted the body of his striker to avoid the beam blade. At the same time, he also grabbed the wingman's striker's arm and planted his striker's feet on the ground. He then activated the anchor mechanism on the sole of his striker's feet and a pair of steel claws dug into the asphalt. The jetter, whose charge vector was beautifully redirected, was blown away and collided with the first jetter. Both strikers rolled on the ground with a loud noise. Without caring about those 2 strikers, Kaisai floored the pedal again. This time a stream of flame was instantly discharged from the thrusters, accelerating Gradius Kai away as if it was caught in an explosive blast. You bastard! Doing whatever you want to our unit. A jetter pointed its rifle to the Gradius Kai. However, their Gradius Kai planted one of its feet into the asphalt with the anchor again and spun itself using the momentum. With his entire body attacked by the G-force, Kaisai grits his teeth. Then at the same moment the red beam flew right past his striker. He re-accelerated. His bile bunker ruthlessly pierced the enemy jetter before it could react. He finally breathed out and took a deep breath as he made the Gradius Kai kick the ground. Igniting the thrusters, he flew to the sky again. Just like that, he accelerated the Gradius Kai at full power. His target is the enemy striker that is about to get up. The enemy jetter, which received a kick with the full weight of Gradius Kai to the chest, was slammed to the ground with a tremendous force, breaking its main camera. On the other hand, Kaisai, who performed an Yukimi and landed, casually stood up. His bile bunker was then driven into the defenseless abdomen of the jetter, that had stopped moving due to his earlier surprise attack. Alright. After that, he proceeded to give the finishing blow by driving his bile bunker into the last remaining jetter. It was a one-sided game. With the combat finally over, Kaisai turned off the photon saber. After watching the beam blade dispersed, Kaisai stored the grip into the compartment located at the clavicle of Gradius Kai. No enemy detected, the AI stated with an inorganic voice. It appears that all enemy strikers that descend to this area were completely wiped out. Thanks for your work. Schleer said that as if she just managed to form her determination to speak. Why, you were much wilder than I thought. Kaisai-san. Her first impression of Hokuto Kaisai was that of a small fragile boy. The fact that she just saw him yelling his war cry and went on a demonic rampage earlier came as a surprise to her. No, I mean, you know. If your fighting spirit is less than your opponent, then you can't win the battle, right? After taking a deep breath, Kaisai replied. The three most important things to rely on the battlefield are first your guts, your luck, and finally your pilot skills. That's my motto. Are you sure that you didn't mistake your order? Well. It's true that I can get very loud. I'm sorry. Saying so, Kaisai turned to Schleer and smiled. She could not feel any trace of the demon she saw earlier at all. If anything, his smile just made her want to protect him instead. With her heart racing faster, Schleer turned away to hide her flushed face. No, it's me who should apologize. It's pathetic of me for putting a beautiful man like you on the battlefield. This is completely due to my inability. Being called a beautiful man, Kaisai's cheeks cramped. I'm a mercenary, so I am fighting on the battlefield with my own volition, though. This is a matter of pride. This Schleer Henrietta swears as a knight that I will become a woman who can protect you. It's not something that you should swear about, though. Kaisai rolled his eyes. He also has his pride as a pilot. There's no way that he's happy to be told something like that. It's true that he's pretty much helpless once he gets off a striker, though. Well, more importantly, while ignoring Schleer as she muttered, if only I have Miss Tiltwine with me, Kaisai states his plan. There are still enemies left, so I'm going to get them next. Okay. Enemies? You want to go to another theater? The noisy ones are still active after all. Let's go silence them. Saying so, he pointed at his destination, the sky. Up there. Don't tell me, you plan to stop the orbital bombing? Certainly. The thunderous sound from the orbital bombardment can still be heard from here. I brought an anti-ship grenade launcher for that purpose after all. Is there any ride booster lying around here? Please show me. Schleer lost her words at Kaisai, who said that as if it was the most natural thing to do. CH-6. Breaking through the atmosphere. On inhabitable planets with a gravity level of more or less 1 g, most strikers have enough thrust to leave the atmosphere. However, that's just for leaving the atmosphere. Even if you managed to reach the satellite orbit in a striker, you would have already spent most of your fuel, and the amount left would very much limit your combat capability. Reaching 40,000 meters in altitude, state the AI. There, Gradius Kai is currently flying at ultra-high altitudes on what seems to be a wheelless motorcycle. A huge amount of jet stream is being emitted from the two large rocket engines mounted on the rail of said motorcycle, providing tremendous thrust power. This type of auxiliary propulsion device is called a ride booster, and such devices are used widely by strikers to break through the atmosphere. Kaisai and Schleer are currently using one to reach the enemy fleet in orbit, but taking on a whole fleet with only a single striker. Is it not too unreasonable? It sure is. But if we don't hurry up and stop their bombardment, there will be a lot of casualties, you know. No, There are probably a large number of casualties by now. The orbital bombardments so far have been limited to surface-penetrating ammunition aimed at the area where underground military facilities are likely to be located, but the enemy performed a perfect surprise attack where the people here received no warning at all. With the state of the city after being subjected to the stray bullets alone indicated that, like it or not, this is already a mess. Besides, if we keep being passive here. Do you think we can win? The Third Fleet. If we can meet up with some reinforcements, Schleer said bitterly. If I have to be honest, even if you manage to join up with your reinforcements, your chance of winning is still slim. The Third Fleet is just a jumble of outdated ships. You may have a superior number on your side, but in terms of quality, it will be your complete defeat. Schleer knew that the enemy battleships were of the Rovan class, the latest space battleship of the Nord Empire. In a head-on battle, the Third Fleet, which is just a ragtag fleet, would likely get one-sidedly defeated. It is because they know that the enemy chose such a bold strategy. That's why I'm doing this. If I can crush the enemy's flagship, there's a good chance that their entire fleet will withdraw. If not, at least we will be able to stop their orbital bombardment. Is that really possible? Kaisai-san, I don't see why it would be impossible. You know, I'm the strongest after all. You are? Schleer smiled at what sounded like words from a child. It's a grand statement that no one would be at fault to dismiss. However, since those words came from a man who just casually annihilated multiple of the enemy's military standard strikers with a remodeled training machine, rather than dismissing him, those words gave her a sense of reliability instead. Then I have a plan. Can you hear me out? A plan? You have some kind of secret weapon hidden here? No, it's not that big of a deal. Kaisai-san, instead of targeting the enemy's flagship, can you please aim for their escort cruisers instead? The cruisers? Certainly. They were told that the enemy has 4 medium-sized cruisers in their fleet. However, the orbital bombing is being carried out by the artillery guns on the battleships. In other words, the battleships are much more threatening to the surface than the cruisers. There is also the issue of enemy morale. That's why Kaisai personally thinks that it would be more effective to just ignore the cruisers and attack the battleships. It's not like we have enough ammunition to completely destroy one of their battleships even if we spend it all. I think that it is better to take down their cruisers instead. Naturally, cruisers are less armored and much smaller than battleships, so they are easier to take down. However, despite having less armor, they are equipped with all kinds of weapons. As the only thing they can use is this striker, it would be harder to take these cruisers down. Do you think the enemy will retreat if we destroy their cruisers? Yes. Without their escort, the only things they have to protect those battleships would be some strikers and missile vessels. That will make their fleet much easier to deal with. This will give the Third Fleet a good chance of winning. Also, Schleer put her hand on Kaisai's shoulder. The enemy's objective is the new striker, me, and your elimination. If we show them that you are still alive and are a real threat to their fleet, they will not bother remaining in this system. The Nord Empire already has advantages in this war. They wouldn't want to risk losing their precious advanced battleships in an unfavorable battle. I see, I understand. Let's do that. Kaisai has no objection. He gave her a nod and pulled the control stick up. There, Gradius Kai left the blue sky below and flew across the darkness of space like a comet. CH-7, prepare for combat. They are firing at us already. A high-powered beam with intense heat flies toward them through the emptiness of space. After he operated the Gradius Kai, to avoid it with paper-thin margin, Kaisai spoke to Schleer. We are going right straight at them. Why, yes. Taking a deep breath, Schleer gives Kaisai a nod. When Kaisai glanced at the monitors on the console, it appears that multiple enemy strikers are en route toward them. It's the enemy interceptors. Artillery fire. The enemy fired another artillery shot. Once again, Kaisai avoided it with only a slight movement. The electromagnetic waves from the beam caused the radar noises to cover the screen for a moment. After gulping down her saliva, Schleer turned her gaze to the front monitor. Should we not ditch this ride booster now? The powerful thrust it provides surely gives them speed, but at the same time, their mobility is also greatly impaired. It is common sense to disengage your ride booster before engaging the enemy. No, it is still useful. Is that so? Schleer, who has already understood that common sense doesn't really apply to Kaisai, simply nodded to his reply. Then, Kaisai used the left hand of Gradius Kai to pull out the photon saber. Reaching engagement distance in 3, 2, 1. The AI announced with an emotionless voice. A moment later, a salvo of blaster rifles flew toward the Gradius Kai. While maintaining the ride booster at full output, Kaisai avoids the incoming beams by utilizing small bursts from their Gradius Kai's thrusters to make his movement appear to be irregular. Meanwhile, he had to grit his teeth due to the G-force that is assaulting his body. Kaisai-san. Seeing that, Schlier's small voice leaked out. For a Veld, who possesses a much stronger body than Terran's, dealing with this much G is nothing to her at all. In contrast, Kaisai's expression seems to indicate that this is quite painful for him. I'm so pathetic, to put a man in a painful situation like this. Her small voice leaked out as Schlier grabbed the control stick on the co-pilot seat. I told you, I'm fighting at my own free will. Schlier, who didn't expect him to hear her voice in this cockpit filled with the noisy sound of the engine and various warnings from the system, groaned to herself. You know, I love roaming the battlefield in a striker. Kaisai shouts as he repels the beam which was accurately fired toward the Gradius Kai with the photon saber. There's no need for you to pity or worry about me at all. Do you understand? Why, yes. Schlier nodded and Kaisai now used their Gradius Kai own thrusters to accelerate even further. Due to the intense speed, Kaisai's body is being tightly pressed back against his seat. Too close. Due to the seat layout, when Kaisai got pushed backward, his head would naturally be pressed to Schlier's navel. This made her face turn bright red. I had no choice. It was completely unavoidable. I didn't plan to sexually harass you at all. Not at all. Shut up. I'm not doing that either. Don't sue me later, alright? Because she was getting noisy, Kaisai finally threw any semblance of politeness out the door and shouted back. I'm not going to sue you, no. This is like a reward after all. A reward? Ah, a wah. Don't wah me now. The two left the enemy strikers far behind them as they were having such a ridiculous conversation. They still continued to fire at them with their blaster rifles, but Kaisai simply avoids them as though he has eyes on the back of his head. Arg, whatever. After a loud shout, Kaisai grabbed the anti-ship grenade launcher from the hardpoint installed at their Gradius Kai's back. This bazooka-looking armament is a weapon that any striker that aims to attack battleships can't do without. The enemy fleet is already right in front of them. Their anti-aircraft guns are firing tracer rounds at them, lighting up the darkness like fireworks. 2 battleships, 4 cruisers, It's the standard escort formation. Schlier muttered as she watched the enemy cruisers forming around the Crimson battleships. So, how are we going to ... Schlier was dumbfounded as Kaisai did not slow down at all despite the fact that the enemy fleet was right in front of them. Wait. As they approached an enemy's cruiser, multiple anti-aircraft guns opened fire on their Gradius Kai. Kaisai can still avoid the barrage with minimum movements and block some of it using the photon saber, but there's still a limit to how much a single photon saber can do. Several shells grazed the underside of the ride booster and it started letting out black smoke from its hull. Are we going to be okay? With the enemy cruiser kept getting bigger and bigger on the monitor, and impact after impact from the enemy's shells, Schlier started to panic. However, Kaisai ignores her, and at the moment when they arrived at the position where the anti-aircraft guns on the deck of the cruiser cannot target them, creating a blind spot, there, Gradius Kai jumped off the ride booster. First one down. With smoke and flame still rising from it, the ride booster violently collided into the stern rear of the cruiser. The exact location where their propulsion engine was. A fiery explosion broke out. If they were still within the atmosphere, then they would probably be subjected to the tremendous shockwave as well. With its propulsion engine completely disabled, the cruiser can no longer navigate without receiving an intense repair at a dock first. Just like that, Kaisai turns back his striker and decelerates at full throttle. Intense G-force assaults his body once again. However, he does not stop moving. He warded off the bullets from the anti-aircraft guns and evaded a beam from the enemy anti-aircraft blaster cannon. Next, he managed to kill the extra speed and succeeded in evading the battleship's firing range. He then accelerated and advanced his striker to his next prey. The total number of anti-aircraft guns of the entire fleet easily exceeded 100. All of them were aimed at Kaisai and made full use of their firepower. The barrage of beams and shells looks like a wall closing in on him. In that despair-inducing situation, Kaisai avoids and wards off everything that comes at him. Second one, he approached an enemy cruiser from behind and fired his anti-ship grenade launcher. The grenade launcher electromagnetically accelerated the 406mm shell toward the cruiser's engine. The missile shell which sewed through the gap between their anti-aircraft fires made its impact on the engine. With second and third shots fired in succession, the second cruiser's propulsion was completely destroyed. "We did it!" Schlier cheered at their success, but this time beams from blaster rifles were flying at them from behind. The enemy strikers unit has caught up to them. Completely surrounded. Come at me. While avoiding the beams with the slightest movement, Kaisai ferociously smiled at his enemies. Ch8. Rival, in love. We've lost communication with the Nesia. We've also lost over 50% of our strikers, Mom. The Refferson reported their engine failure. They are dropping out from the formation, Mom. Fools. Just how long do you plan to let a single striker humiliate us like this? Concentrate fire now. The inside of the bridge of the Prussia, the flagship of the 7th Fleet of the Nord Empire, was like a pandemonium. Blue veins popped on the navigation officer's head as the communication officers loudly yelled out their reports. In the middle of that pandemonium, Valentina Tausagarin, commanding officer of the 7th Fleet as well as the 13th Princess of the Nord Empire, quietly stood up from her seat. "So this is their wicked star, huh? I see. The rumors were not exaggerated after all." Despite this strange situation where a lone striker is taking on the entire fleet, she seemed to be enjoying herself. "Your Highness," the glasses-wearing navigating officer puzzledly called out to her commander, "I came up with a good idea to get us out of this." When Valentina declared so while fluttering her curled rich blonde hair, the officer's expression completely changed. "No way. You can't." "Your Highness, I'm going for a duel. Prepare my steed." "You can't." "Your Highness, we can't let you do that." "Your Highness." "Your Highness." A few minutes later, inside the cockpit of the Gradius Kai, which had been engaging in a fierce space battle with the enemy strikers, Schlier raised her voice. "They are retreating." The enemy striker unit which had launched a fierce attack on them earlier is now falling back in waves. The enemy anti-aircraft guns also ceased their activity, leaving their Gradius Kai completely alone. "This is a chance, but it's too unnatural. I think that it would be better if we disengage for now." "No. It seems something is coming, you know." Saying so, Kaisai points at the giant crimson battleship floating in the dark empty space. When Schlier directed her eyes at the monitor, a striker was launched out from its catapult deck. That lone striker is now approaching them using its thrusters. However, there is no system warning indicating that they have been locked on either. "I came to see the famous, wicked star. I have a proposition for you as well. Do you mind sheathing your weapons?" Communication came through the open channel. However, faster than she could digest those words, Schlier received a powerful shock from the appearance of the striker. Black and gold striker. A royal craft. The striker that approached them was a luxurious one painted in black with elegant gold engraving. In its hand is something that looks like a jousting lance, creating the image that this is no ordinary striker. "A royal craft." Meaning. There's a big shot from Nord on that? "Yes, only the relatives of the Emperor are allowed to have that engraving on their strikers." "I never thought that one of their royal family would be here." Schlier frowned at the unexpected appearance of such a VIP. She is also a part of a royal family herself, but the power of their empires are just too different. "I see." She said that she has a proposition, but what do you want to do? "Even if you ask me that." Schlier thought for a moment and glanced at Kaisai. For the time being, let's hear her out. "Roger that." After giving a nod to his employer, Kaisai operates the communication console. "This is their wicked star, Hokuto Kaisai." "Let's hear it." Saying so, he put away the photon saber and the grenade launcher and raised both hands up. "You have my gratitude. I want to have a face-to-face conversation with you. Open the cockpit hatch for me. Understood." After giving Schlier a glance, Kaisai opened the cockpit hatch. Neither of them is wearing helmets, but the pilot suits they are wearing also come with life support functions that deploy an airfield around them, so there's no need to worry about suffocation due to oxygen leakage. The black gold striker approached the Gradius Kai from the front and linked both of its hands with the Gradius Kai-S. Then its cockpit hatch finally opened. Valentina Tausagarin, 13th Princess of the Nord Empire, Pleased to meet you. Coming out of the cockpit was a mysterious beauty with curly blonde hair. Kaisai himself also stood up from his pilot seat and leaned out of his striker, using the opened hatch as a ramp. Hi, I'm Hokuto Kaisai. Oh, your skills is one thing, but it seems that your appearance exceeded even the rumors. I never thought that a man was really piloting this. My skills aside, you won't get anything even if you praise my look, you know. Kaisai shrugs while looking up at Valentina, who is a head or two taller than him. There was no shyness on her face. After all, the sexual desire of Veld women is even stronger than that of the men on Earth. Since I have heard this kind of pickup line countless times already, I'm completely numb to it. In the first place, Veld women all have overwhelming physical strength. If I let them have their way with a fragile Terran guy like me, they would tear me to pieces. Kaisai is also a healthy young man, but, truth is, if he has to subject himself to a fate worse than death by committing to this kind of relationship, he would rather just remain single. Ha ha ha. Playing hard to get her. I'm attracted to you more and more now. After giving Kaisai a broad smile, Valentina's eyes shifted to the person emerging from the cockpit behind Kaisai. The glint in her eyes gave him the feeling that she can unholster her gun and shoot Schleer down right at that moment. By the way, what is that? Schleer Henrietta. I'm the princess of the country you launched your cowardice invasion against. Ah, come to think of it, I think someone already told me about you. I completely forgot your existence until now though. Schleer grit her teeth at that humiliating statement. She pulls Kaisai's shoulder back and steps in front of him as if she's trying to protect him from Valentina. I don't think an employer should step in front of their own mercenary. I'd not be a woman if I kept hiding behind a man's back. Is that really what someone who just sat back and let said man fought the entire battle for her says? On my world, they call a woman like you a pimp, you know. After Valentina casually insulted her, Schleer instinctively pulls out her revolver from her waist holster. Almost at the same time, Valentina also pulled out her automatic pistol at a blinding speed. They pointed their guns at each other and it felt like they could open fire at each other at any moment. Please stop. Did you not come here to talk? Cuckoo, certainly. A lady should not allow blood to spill in front of a man. I will apologize for that. Valentina swiftly returns her gun to the holster while Schleer reluctantly does the same. Well, our self-introduction was a tad bit prolonged. Let's get down to business. It appeared so. This proposition you mentioned. Let's hear that for the time being, Schleer said with a blue vein still popping on her head. Yeah, to put it simply, I want to have a one-on-one duel. Between me and Kaisai, that is. It's that after all? The Nord Empire sure has a lot of guts. Kaisai-san, Schleer shouted in protest. Seeing that, Valentina giggled at her. Guts, huh? As I thought, you really are interesting. I mean, it's true, right? Normally, the person on top needs a lot of guts to come to a place where she may or may not die. After all, for the Volts who place great importance on their leader's ability, it's common for commanders of two opposing forces to fight each other on the front line. However, Valentina must have seen Kaisai's ability with her own eyes already. Even so, she came out here with no hesitation at all. She wouldn't be able to do that without having a lot of guts. What, if I can't even fulfill my noblesse oblige? No one would want to follow me after all. Besides, with a grin, Valentina continued. Kaisai, you have been fighting while trying to kill the least amount of enemy possible. Am I wrong? Ah, you can tell? Kaisai bluntly answered Valentina's question. Hearing that, Schleer also went. Come to think of it now. In a small voice. Against strikers, you aimed at their engines and left the cockpit completely unharmed. Even when you attacked the cruisers, you did not target the bridge, which is their weak point, and focused on neutralizing their propulsion engines instead, right? It's so obvious that anyone would be able to tell. Even in this line of work, I still hate seeing people die. After all, that's elegant. Seriously, don't make me fall for you any more than this. You are the complete opposite of my older sister. She said the last part in a small voice and it felt like she was talking to herself rather than Kaisai. And that's why I'm not so worried about dying here. Rather, I'm more concerned about how to take you down without harming you instead. Minimizing the casualty is just a handicap I placed on myself. You can come at me with your full power, you know. No, it's not like that. After all, Valentina's mouth curved into a sweet smile. After I win, I'm going to have you join my family. CH9. One-on-one duel. But, Was it really okay accepting a condition like that? While they were seeing off the back of Valentina's striker from there, Gradius Kai, Schleer asked in a small voice. The conditions for this one-on-one duel with Valentina are extremely simple. If Kaisai wins, she will withdraw her fleet. And if Valentina wins, Kaisai will have to become hers. The former aside, the latter was something unacceptable for Schleer. It is common among the Vold nations for a beautiful prince of a defeated nation to get forcefully married off to the winning side. However, Kaisai is a mercenary and a Terran. He has no obligation to practice Vold's customs. It's okay. I just have to win after all, Kaisai calmly answered. In truth, as long as they win, it's not a bad condition for them at all. Even if the reinforcements arrive and join the fight against their Imperial fleet, there is no doubt that the Kalanshia side will suffer a lot of damage. If instead, the enemy fleet chooses to withdraw, it would be better to let them go so that Schleer's side can regain their bearings. But with this striker, of course, Schleer no longer has any doubt about Kaisai's ability as a pilot. However, the spec of Valentina's striker should be far superior to the mass-produced model they have fought so far. Valentina's personal striker, there, Orthogratza. This striker is said to have been newly designed from scratch as a royal craft with a single-minded pursuit of performance. By completely ignoring the costs, not only its main engine, its armor, propulsion system, and sensors are all top of the line. Well, it's true that this machine is nothing compared to a Zenith type. This kind of one-off high-performance craft is called the Zenith type. The type of weapon that spreads fear on the battlefield. Still, in terms of weapons, you would be better off mass-producing lower-cost models rather than spending all your resources on a uselessly high-spec one. That being said, just like how royalty and aristocrats on Earth always demand some kind of special weapons for their exclusive use in the medieval era, the Volds are doing the same thing. Against a Zenith-type striker, there, Gradius Kai, which was modified with some armor and random avionics, should stand no chance of winning. Furthermore, the Gradius Kai's only available armament at the moment is an anti-ship grenade launcher whose spare ammunition is already exhausted. But you see, don't you think this is kind of exciting? It's a situation that you usually only see in manga or movies, you know. If it's like in the manga, then the only outcome waiting for you would be to get humiliated by that woman in front of me, right? Just what kind of manga do you usually read? Kaisai forgot himself and loudly retorted, "Oh wah wah wah." Kaisai let out a long sigh at Schleer, who is now covering her mouth from embarrassment. I've worked for many Vold armies, so I'm already used to this, but can I please have some professional delicacies so as to not touch such a topic? I'm sorry. Hearing those words which formed from his long years of enduring such a thing, Schleer apologizes to him in a small voice. Well, leaving that aside, we are about to enter combat. Let's put our all into this. Yes. After Kaisai loudly breathes out and slowly takes a deep breath to switch his mood, he grasps the control sticks and points his gaze to the front. A white flare was fired from there, Prussia. At the same time, a communication came in from Valentina, 13th Princess of the Nord Empire, Valentina Tausagarin. Orthogratza, hereby challenge you to a duel. Mercenary, Hokuto Kaisai. Gradius Kai, accept your challenge. It is a Vold's custom to announce their name in battle, as their race puts great importance on formalist aesthetics. Immediately after Kaisai gave his reply, the lock-on warning sound rings out in the previously quiet cockpit. She's coming, huh? A red beam cut through the darkness of space. That beam, which was aimed straight toward the cockpit of the Gradius Kai, was then deflected away by the photon saber. That woman. She aimed straight at the cockpit after she said all that. I see, trust, huh? I'm facing a good enemy today. While ignoring the angry Schleer, Kaisai mutters to himself. He then accelerated his striker at full power, and the digital tachometer at the console immediately raced to the red zone. At the same time, there, Orthogratza, also accelerated. The distance between them gradually shortened, as they accelerated toward each other. There, Orthogratza continued firing its red blaster beam toward the Gradius Kai, and each time Kaisai ward the beam off using the photon saber. Eventually, when Kaisai reached the distance where the gold engraving was visible to him, there, Orthogratza stopped its advance. So that's her plan after all. Schleer grits her teeth. There, Orthogratza is keeping its distance while barraging them with its blaster. Naturally, Kaisai also tries to close the distance, but the difference between the accelerating ability of their strikers is clear. With only the minimal output from their Orthocrat's S thruster, the distance that their Gradius Kai managed to bridge immediately widened again. Surely you are not going to say that this is unfair, correct? The performance of our strikers is also a part of combat after all. The muzzle installed at the base of the Orthocrat's S lance flashes red and a blaster beam is fired toward Kaisai. While repelling the incoming beam, Kaisai replies, "Of course, I am not going to call it unfair, but the only things a pilot can rely on in the end are only skills and the pilot's will." Kaisai fired the grenade launcher, sending a large anti-ship missile toward the Orthocrat's. However, compared to the beam, its speed is too slow to hit anything. That's not going to work. Naturally, Valentina simply took an evasive maneuver. However, the missile was timed and it detonated itself just before it reached the Orthocrat's, creating a huge fireball in front of Valentina. At the same time, Kaisai throws away the grenade launcher and accelerates at full speed. "Trying to blind me, but when you abandoned your only means of long-range attack, the victory is already mine." Valentina fired another shot of blaster beam and flew backward with a grin on her face. Even if she loses sight of the Gradius Kai for a moment, that is no problem to her. As long as she can maintain the distance, the victory will be hers eventually. Only 10% of the propellants left. Can we really win this? Of course. Kaisai deflected the beam toward the Orthocrat's, and Valentina easily avoided it. That's a scary technique, but if you know it's coming, then there's a lot of ways to avoid it. Further deepening her smile, Valentina pressed the button on her control stick. Besides, even if you can deflect a few blaster beams, there's no way you can deflect all these. The container-shaped object mounted on the back of the Orthocrat's split opened and a large number of micro-missiles were launched from the inside. The Hornet-like missiles all rushed toward the Gradius Kai. At the same time, it's just proximity fuse, just sit back and accept your defeat. These micro-missiles only contain a small amount of explosive charge. If they don't land a direct hit, the cockpit that should be relatively safe. That being said, Kaisai is not planning to give up. She came up with a countermeasure for me after a single battle. Kaisai mutters so as his mouth curves into a smile. If he cannot block them with the photon saber, then he just has to avoid them all. Kaisai accelerated at full speed toward the horde of missiles. What? The two princesses screamed in surprise. However, Kaisai smiled and accelerated even further. The distance between him and the missiles was closed in an instant. As a result, the missiles couldn't fully accelerate. When Kaisai advanced his striker past them, most of the missiles could no longer track him and were left behind by their Gradius Kai. These missiles were designed to make sharp turns for tracking purposes, but they are still small-sized missiles. All of their propellants would be exhausted if they had to perform such a U-turn. You are good, but it is still unavoidable for Kaisai to take some hits. With the proximity fuse's detonation, several small explosions broke out around their Gradius Kai. "It's my win." Convinced of her victory when she saw the Gradius Kai emerging from the explosion, Valentina raised her voice. Their Gradius Kai was in tatter with its head and several parts of its body completely blown away. It is no longer fit for battle. However, no. In the cockpit of the Gradius Kai, Kaisai pulled the trigger with a satisfying smile. "It's my win." Wah! Before Valentina could finish her sentence, a shock shook their Orthocrat's. What? Damn it! After enduring the intense tremor inside her cockpit, Valentina looks at the console monitor. Her earlier confidence disappeared from her expression. What was displayed on the monitor was the damage report screen of her striker died in bright red and a single merciless sentence. Complete lower body loss. Impossible. How? As far as she knows, their Gradius Kai did nothing. She looked around to see if any other striker had ambushed her, but there was no one around at all. Instead, Valentina spotted something floating in the empty space. The grenade launcher? Yes. It was the anti-ship grenade launcher that Kaisai threw away. He activated it remotely? That's impossible. Anti-ship grenade launcher's ammunition indeed possesses a guiding system. However, since it was designed to hit a large target like warships, the guidance system installed was only a simple one. Hitting a small target like a striker with it is extremely difficult. Moreover, since it was fired remotely from the striker, Precise aiming with it should be impossible. You guided me to its range using your striker as a decoy. Correct. Valentina weakly let out a sigh at Kaisai, who casually replied to her. She then let go of the control sticks. It's my complete defeat. There, Orthokratza has lost everything from its waist down, and its main engine was shut down in an emergency. It can no longer continue the battle in this state. Your mistake was when you stopped moving when the battle was still not decided yet. If you moved earlier. I might have accidentally got the cockpit within the explosion range too. Thanks to the image guidance system, it was possible for Kaisai to manually guide the missile to some extent. That being said, he will not be able to aim that well against a moving target. I see. It seems that I am still green, huh? Valentina said with a self-deprecating smile. But your tactics and the decision you made were all superb. Saying so, Kaisai exhales. It was a close call for him as well. However, his expression still looks happy for some reason. The next time we meet, I'm sure that you will bring along an even tougher partner. I'm going to look forward to that. Instead of sounding ironic, his tone was genuine. Hearing that, a bitter smile leaked from Valentina. Well then, my fuel is almost gone as well. It's about time I take my leave. Saying so, Kaisai cut off the communication and flew away in his tattered striker. The wicked start that once you laid eyes on it in the battle, you will definitely fall. Huh. Being left alone in her cockpit, Valentina's eyes fixed toward the direction where Kaisai just left. I see. Certainly. It seems that I did fall, as she whispered to herself. Her cheeks were dyed bright red. CH-10 Battle Cruiser Radiant. They are finally here, huh? 3 hours after the enemy fleet withdrew, Schleer was still inside the cockpit of the Gradius Kai, which is currently floating in the low orbit of Bizaria Prime. Originally, Kaisai planned to land them back on the surface, but Schleer said that she doesn't want to risk a re-entry inside a tattered striker, so they decided to wait for the third fleet in orbit. That is the flagship of my third fleet, the Radiant. Ha! An Inaba-class battlecruiser is it? I never thought that there would still be a country that still has one in active service. In front of the Gradius Kai is a broadside of a space warship. It has a similar shape to the old Navy ship on Earth, with 3 pairs of large blaster cannons on its deck. Its pure white paint is also shining brightly due to the reflected light from Bizaria Prime. Its hull seemed to be well maintained, but it has clearly aged, and it is supposed to be. After all, it has already been 50 years since a name ship of this class was first commissioned. TLN, a name ship/lead ship, is the first of its class that was constructed. We have been upgrading and refurbishing him. He should still have plenty enough power, you know, like a veteran soldier, right? I do like this kind of thing actually. As Kaisai smiled at the battlecruiser, communication came through from the Radiant. Your Highness, thank you for your work. The boarding permission has been granted. Please enter through the rear deck. This is Schleer. Affirmative. Originally that communication should have been directed to Kaisai as he is the pilot, but since he has a superior on board, it's natural for them to address her first. Schleer tapped on Kaisai's shoulder to say that she is sorry about that and urged him to enter the deck. You must have been tired after that battle, right? They must have already prepared a room for you on board. Let's go. Aye. Acknowledging so, Kaisai ignited the thrusters of the Gradius Kai. After going through the landing sequence while receiving the instructions from the Radiant's operator with fluid motion, they landed on a strong supporting net woven from nanotubes inside the deck. Just like that, they proceeded to the hangar according to the instructions. This is quite a nice hangar, isn't it? Because it was an old ship, Kaisai thought that its hangar would be a cluttered, outdated one, but the upgrades and refurbishment made it look as modern and spacious as one on a current generation capital ship. Looking around, Kaisai sees more than 10 claymores, the main striker model used by the Kalantia Empire, along with a few strikers with which he is not familiar with, line up inside. Heave-ho! After the Gradius Kai was fixed on the maintenance hangar, several robot arms extend out to restrain it in place, and a maintenance crane automatically aligns itself with the cockpit hatch. Icon disconnected. Phase transition turbine locked. Engine misfire detected. Initiating system shutdown sequence. Good work, pilot. Goodbye. The AI gave its report and all the instruments and monitors went black. That was really tiring. I never thought that I would have to fight a whole fleet as soon as I arrived. After leaving the cockpit, Kaisai stretched and looked around. Pilots, mechanics, and various kinds of crew members are gathering around there, Gradius Kai, while whispering something among themselves. I'm sorry, I didn't expect the enemy to show up as well. When they saw Schleer come out of the cockpit with a bitter smile, the whispers intensified. A man and a woman alone in that small cockpit. How enviable? The princess is a predator. Such words can be heard from all around us. Ahem. After a light cough, Schleer pressed the switch on the crane's basket's control panel. The basket descended accompanied by a dull noise of its motor and reached the floor. A woman in a high-class officer uniform then rushed to Schleer and whispered something into her ears. After thinking for a few seconds, Schleer also said something to the woman. After that secretive conversation continued for around 30 seconds, Schleer finally turned back to Kaisai. I see, I understand. Kaisai-san, it appears that I have some business to attend to. My apologies, but I am unable to escort you any further than this. I have prepared a room for you. One of my subordinates will guide you. So please rest up for today. Schleer glanced at a young female soldier and she immediately stepped up and saluted him. Kaisai returns the salute in kind, and the cheeks of the girl, who was all stiff due to the tension, immediately got dyed in red. We will also deliver meals to your room. Please stay in your room and do not walk around outside. I do not believe that I have vulgar soldiers under my command, but we still have to be careful. I do want to take a walk around though. You can't. I can't. There are more than 100 starving beasts on board. Leaving such a good-looking male mercenary to wander around alone in such a place may cause some irreparable damage to said mercenary himself. Thinking so, Schleer grabbed Kaisai's arms and strongly insisted on her request. Please. I understand. Good. After nodding to him with a smile, Schleer left with the senior officer. Left behind, the soldier who was assigned to be his guide approached him with a robot-like movement. Please, allow me to guide your way. Thank you. After Kaisai replied with a cheerful voice, the girl repeatedly nodded and tried to lead the way with stiff movements. However, someone stopped them before he could take another step. Wait. It was a girl with a black ponytail. She is wearing a yellow pilot suit with a small lieutenant insignia on the chest area. Her scarlet-colored eyes glare intensely at Kaisai. It's you, The fool of a man who's playing at being a pilot. CH-11. Kaisai got picked a fight with. It's you, The fool of a man who's playing at being a pilot. That's right. Kaisai proudly answered the ponytail girl, whose intention was clearly to pick a fight with him. Seeing that, blood drained off the guide girl's face as she stepped forward to protect Kaisai. Lieutenant Makishima. Makishima? That's a Japanese name, Kaisai thought as he raised his eyebrows. The girl called Makishima has a pair of beast ears, which is the characteristic of a Vuld. No matter how he looks at her, she doesn't seem to be a Terran at all. Perhaps one of your parents is a Terran? Yeah, my grandfather was certainly a Terran. What of it? A Terran is capable of procreating with a Vuld. However, what's terrifying about this is that the child born from such a couple will come out as a pure Vuld. For this reason, some Terrans even degradingly refer to the Vulds as a race of human-like orcs. Ho-hoo. I'm glad to meet someone who shares the same roots as me despite being so far from Earth. I'm Hokuto Kaisai, nice to meet you. Kaisai stepped past the guide girl, forcibly grabbed Makishima's hand, and shook it. I'm Makishima Saki. That's not IT. Don't touch me. The girl who introduced her name as Saki hurriedly pulled her hand back and rubbed it on her pilot suit. Her face is also bright red like a boiled octopus. That being said, Kaisai continues to speak to her while ignoring all that. By the way, I am a little curious, but how is your grandfather doing now? He's been dead a long time ago, even before my mother was born. Seriously? Her answer was as he expected. Considering the timing, he must have died during the deed. While his face went blue from the idea of having a relationship with a Vuld woman, Kaisai praised for Saki's grandfather inside his heart. No matter how attractive they are, he must never allow any Vulds to have their way with his body. More importantly, piloting a striker is women's territory. There's no place for a fragile man like you. Do you get that, Lieutenant? The decision to employ Hokuto-san came directly from Her Highness herself. You are overstepping your bounds by disagreeing with her decision. A desk jockey like you has no say in this. This is between someone who works in the field. When Saki shouted at her, the guide girl quivered. Even if you say that, I don't know how to make a living besides being a pilot though. You are a man, so you can just ask a girl to support you, right? In Vuld society, that is the norm. Due to the super-biased birth rate of males to females of 10 to 1, most men would just get married off as soon as they reach a certain age. Except for some of their upper classes, a man is usually shared among sisters. On their world, no man is supposed to work. Furthermore, the appearance of male vulds is not much different from that of Terran women except that they are physically stronger. That may appear like a happy harem life, but Kaisai has heard from his friend who is a vuld man, that married life is actually harsh for them. My dad left me with a load of debt and disappeared off somewhere. My mother is dying from her heart condition. My elder sister suddenly came back home one day with a supposed incurable disease and the treatment cost was just ridiculously high. I'm the only one who can support them, right? For those who lived in such a society, even if he explains how a Terran society work, they would not understand. Kaisai sighed as he talked about his personal details. th. That must be hard on you. Saki, who appears to be a good person deep down, completely toned down her aggressiveness and looks at Kaisai with sympathetic eyes. Well, my sister has completely healed about half a year ago, so she left home and ended up marrying a handsome guy of the same age though. There are things that a person should and shouldn't do, right? If your sister is that terrible, then you should just cut ties with her already. If you flipped it over and looked at it from a Terran sensibility, it would be like a guy coming home to rely on his little sister to support him and abandon her once he's all cured up to find his own happiness, leaving his sister to deal with the debt alone. Saki's anger is completely justified. I do think that all Ryuju should just go ahead and explode, but there's no need to take it that far, you know. Ryuju should all explode though. TLN. Ryujus is a type of people that for some reason think that Valentine Day is a good thing. That being said, as someone who enjoys being a pilot very much, except the part where his distrust toward the opposite sex is gradually growing stronger and stronger every day, Kaisai cannot refute her words. No, but that's not it. I understand why you became a pilot, but it doesn't mean that I am willing to recognize why. Ah, that's right. Pilot. Makishima-san is also a pilot, right? Saki is currently wearing a yellow pilot suit. As per standard, hers also has a suggestive design that reveals her slender figure. That's right. So what? As I thought. Moreover, you are quite capable too, aren't you? I can tell from the air around you. Well, yeah. Saki shyly scratched her cheek. She also looks away and her mouth curled up a little. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that you are the ace of this fleet. Know your country right. While being a commoner, Lieutenant Makishima's skills are good enough that she received her own Zenith type. But as you can see, her personality is kind of difficult, said the guide girl who has been excluded from the conversation until now. Convinced, Kaisai nodded and returned his gaze to Saki. The right to pilot a Zenith type is usually reserved for high-ranking aristocrats or royalty. Even so, the fact that a commoner like her has gained that same right means that she must have achieved something great. You are piloting a Zenith? That's amazing. What kind of striker is it? Huh? Seriously? There's no helping it. If you want to know that much, then I will show you. When Kaisai asked while taking a step closer to her, Saki replied with a loose smile. It appears that her previous aggressiveness has disappeared off somewhere. After he glanced at the guide girl and gave her a light bow, Kaisai followed Saki to her striker. This is the ZX-95, Dainsleif. Amazing, right? The striker that Saki pointed at was a smart-looking one painted in bright chrome yellow. Overall, it looks pretty slender, but its joints seem to be heavily armored. Furthermore, there's a huge Japanese sword-looking armament stored inside a strange mechanized scabbard on its waist. Its name is Dainsleif and its main weapon is a katana. It seems that the maker is fully pushing his conception of what's cool to the Vulds who are not familiar with Earth's legends. Kaisai couldn't help but smile as he thought so. It's quite funky, isn't it? Right? You do understand, Obviously. Kaisai gazes at the katana inside the strange scabbard while repeatedly nodding at the design choice as he replies to Saki. It's a linear ejection mechanism. Those are good eyes you have there. That's right. The scabbard is capable of electromagnetically accelerating the draw. With this scabbard, you can perform an EAI slash at extreme speed. It's kind of like a special move. EAI? So cool. This striker is made of a man's dreams, isn't it? As Kaisai said that with his eyes gleaming, Saki nodded with a smug expression. You do understand after all. Also, The thing attached on the arm is. Saki begins to narrate the specs of her striker with no prompt from Kaisai. Kaisai, who is in a good mood from seeing a cool striker, also keeps listening while nodding in response. The hostility from the beginning of their conversation seems to have completely disappeared. CH-12. The Crazy Princess. 3 days have passed since Kaisai boarded the Radiant. The Nord side showed no sign of movement and he had not been ordered to sortie during that time. Moreover, since Schlier has ordered him not to leave his room, he couldn't even go for a walk outside. The room given to Ksai was a private room for high-ranking officers. Not only does it come equipped with a personal bathroom, but it also has a kitchen installed. During the past 3 days, they have been regularly bringing meals to his room, so it felt practically like a house arrest. Still, it seems that they are quite considerate given that they put this giant screen here. In the past 3 days, Kaisai has been playing video games with his mobile terminal connected to the giant screen on the wall. It's a very retro pixel RPG, so the game screen looks kinda ugly due to the unnecessarily high resolution. Although he has something to kill time with, he was already tired of lazing around in this windowless room. After thinking about it for a while, Kaisai saved his progress and disconnected his terminal from the gigantic screen. It should be fine if I sneak out for a bit, right? Grabbing his flight jacket off the hanger, Kaisai tried to leave the room. Whoa. However, the moment the door slid open, Schlier was there in her military uniform. Kaisai jumped up in surprise and fell on his butt. Kaisai-san, are you okay? Schlier, who seems to be surprised by that herself, reached out to Kaisai with cold sweat on her forehead. Why, yes, I'm fine. Kaisai, who managed to stand up, retreated backward with a vague smile. Acting as if nothing is out of the ordinary, he threw his flight jacket on the luxurious bed and asked Schlier what she's doing here. So, what kind of business do you have with me today? Just now, weren't you trying to leave the room? I wonder what you are talking about. There's no use trying to hide it now though. I've been under this house arrest for 3 days already. I need some fresh air. Since it seems impossible to fool her, Kaisai quickly shifted the blame to Schlier. I do think that it is also my fault, but there's no other choice but to do this in order to protect you, Schlier continued with an apologetic look. But my cup noodle supply is about to run out, you know. If I can go out, then I should be able to buy a few from the stores here, right? Kaisai's eyes pointed at his carry case, which was delivered to him here from the surface. It appears that the contents of his carry case were cup noodles. See? Cup noodles. The meals I had my subordinates brought you were supposed to be the kind that is reserved for aristocrats, though. This and that is a different matter. Even if I was served some luxurious meals, I still want to eat what I want. Yes. Schlier has a puzzled expression on her face. To be honest, if he has a specific request, he should have told it to her staff here. What? Do you hate cup noodles? No. I've never eaten one before, but I do know about them. That's no good at all. You have to experience it at least once. Come on in, please. Kaisai grabbed Schlier's arm and dragged her into the room. Flustered by the sudden development, Schlier followed inside with little to no resistance while going a man's room. My heart isn't ready for this. It smells nice though. Can you please not say something like that? It hurts my feelings. I do take a shower every day, you know. Wait, don't just waltz into the bathroom. Shower? Did you just say shower? That's no good. A man shouldn't say something shameful like that. It's your brain that's shameful for linking a shower to that kind of stuff, alright? There's no helping it, right? This is the first time I got invited into a man's room, you know. Seeing her getting all excited, Kaisai let go of her arm and took a step back with a small yelp. Please calm down. Take a deep breath. Deep breath. Now let it out. Did you manage to calm down? I'm even more excited now. From a Terran's perspective, it's like inviting a virgin guy into the room where a beautiful girl has been spending her time alone inside for 3 days. There's no way that she can stay calm. Moreover, it is said that Vald women's sexual desire is even stronger than that of middle or even high schoolers on Earth. It was Kaisai's mistake for dragging her inside his room without considering that first. No, seriously, I can apostrophe T. You should stop that before you hyperventilate yourself. Rather, just stop. A little more. Just a little more. I'm getting dizzy. What a coincidence. Me too. This shameful behavior of his employer made Kaisai hold his head. The face of Schlier, who is totally hyperventilating at this point, is completely red. It would be better if she can calm down soon. Anyway, please sit down. No, I think that you should lay down instead. I'm sorry that it's used, but please lie down on my bed for the time being. I'm sorry. Schlier powerlessly lay down on the bed. A scene where a white-haired girl weakly lying down on a luxurious bed is supposed to be rather lewd, but with her shameful display earlier, there's not even a speck of ulterior motive in Kaisai's mind. Seriously. After around 10 minutes, Schlier had settled down and Kaisai could finally let out a sigh of relief. I can't look you in the eyes anymore, muttered Schlier in a muffled voice as embarrassment took over and she buried her face on the pillow. Well, it was also my fault for carelessly dragging you inside. I will pretend that nothing happened this time. Thank you very much. Also, can we switch rooms later? Seriously, she hasn't learned anything at all. Looking closely at her now, it seems that rather than being too embarrassed to face him, she is enjoying herself with the lingering smell on the pillow. Your parents will cry if they see you like this, you know. Hearing that, Schlier quickly got up from the bed, albeit still giving a look of regret at the pillow. So what do you want from me in the first place? With his will to educate her about the cup noodles completely evaporated, Kaisai asked her that question with half-opened eyes. That's right. I came to see you because the striker for Kaisai-san's personal use was finally finished. Really? Hearing that, Kaisai's excitement, which dropped considerably due to the earlier display, immediately rose to the max. CH-13 Caliburn Revive. This is the ZXX-100 Caliburn Revive. After they left Kaisai's room, the two headed to the hangar and Schlier introduced the striker with a proud expression as though her earlier shameful behaviors never happened. Originally, it was an unarmed prototype of the Excalibur, but I assigned the spare parts from their Excalibur to it and had it modified for active combat use. If it's a modified unit, then it's kind of similar to their Gradius Kai, isn't it? While looking at the place Schlier is pointing at, Kaisai gave a few nods. Much like their Excalibur, there stands a pure white striker. It featured a twin eye-type main camera and two large blade antennas on its head, giving an impression of a pair of rabbit ears. It is a medium-weight, general-purpose type striker with no distinctive features, but it has high mobility and more than enough payload, so it should be able to handle various kinds of missions. Even though we've assembled it on the fly here, its specs should be enough to qualify it as a Zenith type, sir, a young mechanic in work clothes excitedly explained. She looked tired. It appears that she went through a lot of work refurbishing this striker, but strangely, her eyes are still gleaming from excitement. So it's technically a Zenith type? Yes. The higher-up at Kawashima said that it is an affordable low-priced model, but it has been remodeled by the best mechanics of our engineering department. The Nord Zenith can't hold a candle to it. What the heck is an affordable Zenith? A Zenith-type striker is supposed to be the one-off flagship model that went all in for high specs while disregarding the costs. You can't possibly describe such a thing as affordable even by mistake. Please don't mind that. In fact, it should be extremely difficult for a small to medium-sized country to afford a Zenith type. Still, such countries would indeed acquire one or two Zenith-type units for appearance's sake. That being said, it's not something that you should share with your pilots, so Schlier forcibly interrupted the conversation. What about the weapons? It has a 12.7mm twin machine gun installed on the head, two photon sabers sheathed inside the chest compartments, and two wire guns on its waist. Sir, installing a machine gun on the head is a good idea. What about the external loads? The main armament is a blaster rifle. It's a new model with 8.5 MW, megawatts, output. A PMA-4 particle magazine should give you 20 rounds. You can also use the old PW3C magazine with it, but it should give you only about 12 shots before it runs out of power. I see. What else? An anti-ship grenade launcher and a pile bunker mounted on the left arm as per your request. Sir, that should be it, but there is still room in the payload, so we can add more if you want. No excess or deficiency, a balanced machine. This is good. Except for the pile bunker, it only has the basic equipment of a frontline striker. Although it doesn't possess any specialized high-powered armament, it is plenty enough for Kaisai to work with. You can take it out for a test drive right now. You know, if you'd like, that is. Of course, I plan to do that from the start. There, Radiant is currently orbiting the high orbit of Bizaria Prime. There is no civilian facility nearby. After Schleer told him that it is okay to test drive the Caliburn Revive around the ship, he immediately changed into his pilot suit. After riding a cargo lift up to the cockpit, he found that the cockpit is a single seat type which is a little wider than that of the Gradius Kai. After seating himself on the viscoelastic seat, Kaisai then operates the console to boot up the Striker. The OS of the Caliburn Revive is quite different from Gradius Kai's, but after piloting so many kinds of Strikers as a mercenary, Kaisai can operate it without any problem. Hello, pilot. Now initiating boot sequence. Oh, this is unusual. The voice of the AI this time was a calming voice of a woman. The default voices for most Strikers AI are usually male, so Kaisai was surprised. I heard that this one is quite popular inside the Terran army, so I used my own money to buy that voice pack for you, sir. Thank you very much. The voice of the earlier mechanic came from the communication device he put on his ear. Actually, Kaisai doesn't mind whether it's a male or female voice, but since she has gone an extra mile for him, his only logical response was to express his gratitude. While he was doing that, there, Caliburn Revive undergoes its booting sequence. The engine went through its ignition process and the monitors lit up. The system check also shows no sign of problems. Then, he detached the Striker from the maintenance bay and took a step forward after confirming that there's no one underneath. How is it, sir? No problem so far. The Icon TLN, the bidirectional brain-machine interface, matching also felt good. Everything seems to be going all right, correct? Then please proceed to the launch deck. Since it is only nearby, I think that there is no need to use the catapult. Aye. Following Schleer's instructions, Kaisai heads through the airlock to the launch deck. The launch deck here is a semi-open air deck with linear catapult installed. It is now mostly empty as the crews are currently at their stations. So, without having to worry about his surroundings, Kaisai started the thrusters and flew into space. TLN, a linear catapult, is an electromagnetic aircraft launch system. Alright. Using the foot pedal, Kaisai accelerates the Striker. Turning, somersaulting, emergency braking. He tried out all kinds of movements one by one. Naturally, both its mobility and motility are much superior to their Gradius Kai. This is an excellent work. The weight balance feels really good. It's so perfect that I can't even tell that this was originally an unarmed prototype, you know. Really? Alright. It was worth staying up all night for 3 days straight. Hey. He said that it's perfect. It's time to celebrate, guys. Rather than Kaisai, the second part of her words was probably directed at her staff. Still, she did say something scary. Apparently, the mechanics of the maintenance crew had been working non-stop to complete this Striker. With cold sweat starting to accumulate on his back, Kaisai began to think about how to thank them later. Now then, let's perform the combat test. You wouldn't be able to get the real feel of it until you try it out in an actual battle after all. So that's why the weapons were all set to training specs. The muzzle of the blaster rifle had an attachment for training use on it. Even if he fires it now, the only thing that will come out would be a harmless laser for registering hits on his training partner. It appears that the machine gun and grenade launcher are loaded with training ammunition as well. Please allow this Schleer to be your partner today. Come to think of it, you did have a personalized pilot suit, huh? Kaisai remembers seeing her wearing it the other day. However, in the end, she never had a chance to grab the control stick, so he doesn't know how capable she is. This might sound presumptuous to a pilot of Kaisai-san's caliber, but I am actually quite confident in my skills. If I had my personal Striker with me that day, I'd take down that shameless woman from Nord myself. Really? Yes. I will be taking off shortly. Please wait. Hey. While she was saying that, someone suddenly interrupted their conversation. Wait. At the same time, a Striker flies out from the launch deck of the Radiant. The Striker was a familiar yellow one. It's Makishima Saki's, Dainsleif. With her face projected on the small communication monitor, Saki declares with a confident smile on her face, I will make it clear here who's the best pilot on this ship. Lieutenant Makishima. What are you doing? Schleer raised her voice in protest, but Kaisai only smiled at Saki. There's no problem, right? You can take turns. Let's do this. The engineering department wants more combat data as well. Please do this. Your Highness, Arg. Schleer could do nothing but let out a frustrated sigh. CH-14. The difference in ability. Hey, that's how I like it. Let's go, Dainsleif. Let's show him that a man has no place being a pilot. The moment she shouted so, there, Dainsleif accelerated toward the Caliburn Revive. Thruster flames can also be seen from the 8 thrusters of the cloak-like armor-type equipment covering the unit's body. Totally this one. It is probably the type of armament that provides both mobility and defense to the unit. Right away, huh? Come at me. Although the words that were thrown at him could be described as nothing but an insult, what was visible on Kaisai's face was not anger but joy. He immediately readied the blaster rifle and opened fire. Although the beam is not actually fired from the rifle, the beam of light was CG generated on both of their monitors by the training program. Whoa, without a lock-on? There was no lock-on warning sound blaring inside the cockpit of the Dainsleif. Without using the active sensor, Kaisai has fired the rifle manually using only the passive sensor. Despite this, his aim was no less accurate. The CG-generated beam homed in toward the abdomen of the Dainsleif. However, but that won't work on me. The beam was repelled by the cloak-like armor and the training program judged that the beam doesn't have enough power to penetrate it. What a child's play, huh? There, Dainsleif accelerated at extreme speed and instantly closed the distance. Its hand is on a katana grip on its waist. Eat this, Elec. That's my line. Take this. Just before the katana was unleashed using the linear ejection mechanism of the scabbard, the 2 machine guns mounted on the head of the Caliburn Revive opened fire and the right hand of the Dainsleif was barraged with bullets. The machine guns can only fire small caliber bullets. Their penetration power is too weak to pierce the front armor. However, it is enough to destroy the delicate manipulators and the training program forcibly disables their Dainsleif's right hand. Like I will let you. Using that chance, there, Caliburn Revive unleashed a kick toward the Dainsleif. Saki managed to guard against the kick with the cloak-like armor but the Caliburn Revive kicked off the armor and performed a somersault. The next moment, the muzzle of the anti-ship grenade launcher mounted on the back of the Caliburn Revive was aligned with the Dainsleif. No way. However, the reality was ruthless. A training missile is launched from the grenade launcher. Saki had no way to avoid it and had to block it with the cloak-like armor. It's only a missile designed for training uses. Naturally, there's no explosion. However, a sentence saying, "Unit lost," is being mercilessly displayed on the monitors inside Saki's Striker. Even with the additional armor, it is impossible for their Dainsleif to guard against a high-caliber shell designed for destroying ships. Why? You gotta be kidding, right? It could not be described as anything but a complete defeat. Saki's hands, which are still holding the control sticks, started to shake. It's just a single defeat. Don't be so shocked. This is only an exercise, right? Kaisai's voice reaches Saki's ears. This is not a real battle. It's a fight to see if we can understand each other. Am I wrong? Eh? What? Bring it on then. I'm gonna take you down. The short-tempered Saki immediately reacted to Kaisai's provocation. With her eyes brimming with motivation, she restarted the training program. Don't regret this later, okay? Once again, she starts up the thruster and approaches Kaisai, who had already taken a distance away from her. There, Dainsleif's hand grabbed onto the katana grip again. She also did not forget to position the cloak-like armor to cover the hands until the last minute before she unleashes her attack. I got you this time. Electromagnetic slash. Accompanied by an electric spark, the silver blade is unsheathed from the scabbard. The slash flashes at a speed comparable to a bullet. Even if Kaisai's Striker is a Zenith type, if it is within the striking range, it would be cut down in a single blow. No matter how fast it is, it's no use if you can't land it. Kaisai evaded the blow with minimal movement. The tip of the katana lightly scraped the armor of the Caliburn Revive. TSK. Due to its power, there, Dainsleif has a hard time moving immediately after the katana was electromagnetically ejected. Still, Saki uses the thrusters on the independently movable cloak-like armor to get some distance. However, Kaisai did not miss this chance. He approached and inserted the muzzle of his blaster rifle into the gap between the cloak armor, then pulled the trigger. Damn. Saki clenched her teeth at their "Unit lost" message displaying on her monitors and restarted the training program. At least take out your swords. Are you trying to make a fool of me? So you wanted a sword fight? Alright, I will play along. Kaisai mounts the blaster rifle on the hardpoint at their Caliburn Revive's waist and pulls out a photon saber from the chest compartment. Looking down on me, Saki rushed in with the katana still unsheathed and performs a downward slash from above. In response, Kaisai blocked the katana with the photon saber. The metallic and energy blades collided, sending the sparks flying. One is a weapon that utilizes a magnetic field to mold light particles into a shape of a sword. Another is a sword that vibrates at high frequency to increase its slashing power. Since both generate a strong magnetic force, they are actually repelling each other. Quite a power output you have there. It was their Caliburn Revive that was being pushed back, although it is a newer model. The opponent's striker is a unit built to be specialized in close-quarter combat. Their Dainsleif is a striker that is capable of producing instantaneous power to enhance its body using a high-torque motor. Being a general-purpose striker, their Caliburn Revive appears to be losing to that instantaneous power boost. It's because you weren't taking me seriously, you idiot. When their Caliburn Revive lost its posture, Saki immediately launched a follow-up attack. However, Kaisai parried it with the photon saber, easily diverting its trajectory. This time, it was the Dainsleif that lost its posture. But you cannot win a battle with power alone. Kaisai immediately stepped on the pedal and closed the distance. Saki tried to escape but faster than she could. The tip of the pile bunker mounted on their Caliburn Revive's hand had already touched the abdomen of the Dainsleif, with the words, "Unit lost," displayed in front of her for the third time already. Saki grit her teeth and shouted out, "Damn it, again." "Fine, I'm going to accompany you." CH-15. Overwhelming. That instant power boost is the greatest perk of your striker. Use it. That's your 29th defeat. No matter how fast your striker is, your movements are too straightforward. Damn it. I will get you next time. That's the spirit. You got guts. But it will only end up as your 30th defeat. Schlier tiredly sighed at the conversation, which she could not be sure whether it's a serious or a casual one. It's been more than 30 minutes since this combat training began, but Saki still couldn't score a victory against Kaisai yet. Her defeat comes basically once every minute, so now she kind of respects her endurance instead. Can I have my turn now? PL. Please wait a little longer, Your Highness. One win. If I can score just one win, then I will tag out. I cannot wait for decades, you know. Saki's face cramped at Schlier's barbed words. As a matter of fact, Saki has already realized the difference in their ability, but her high pride is still preventing her from admitting defeat. Let's do this together. I still don't think that we will stand a chance with both of us though. Two of us against a man? No way. That's too cowardly. Cowardly? In the face of a powerful enemy, it's natural to join up with your ally and fight together. It's the basics of warfare. Your Highness is telling me to resort to such a manly tactic? Kaisai couldn't help but smile a little at their bizarre use of the word, manly. After all, if he gets offended with just this, he wouldn't be able to work with the Velds. Besides, he's already used to it. It certainly sounds pathetic for two strong women to gang up against a man. But Kaisai-san's ability is the real deal. Do you still think that he is an opponent that you can beat while worrying about his gender? I admit that he's damn strong, but sometimes you must swallow your shame and hone yourself. Moreover, if we cannot get stronger, then we will never be able to achieve the true essence of a knight. No. Of a woman. Let us think of this as training against a strong opponent and do this together. I understand. Unexpectedly, Saki was persuaded by Schlier. It appears that she manages to reflect on a lot of things during her repeated defeats. I will admit that I am weaker than you for now. I will definitely win someday, alright. Of course. You are not someone that would just give up after a few losses, right? You can challenge me again anytime you want. Kaisai replied with a grin on his face. His expression made it look like he's enjoying this. I apologize for her rudeness, Kaisai-san. Schlier connected a private communication channel and apologized to him on Saki's behalf. Since Saki can be quite rude when it comes to men, she thinks that Kaisai might have been offended by her rudeness. No, it was nothing at all. She is a good pilot. I actually like people who never give up like her. Even after losing to him 30 times in a row, her spirit never broke. To Kaisai, her guts were worthy of respect. Besides, even if she has a bad mouth, I think that she's not the malicious type. She picked a fight with me because I'm a man, but I think that's because she simply doesn't want to see someone that she should protect fighting on the battlefield. Anyway, that's the kind of feeling I got from her. She certainly is that type of person. I'm surprised you understand her so well. Schleer herself has a long relationship with Saki since she is the top ace of her fleet. Both of them have fought together on various battlefields. That's why Schleer understood her, but she was surprised that Kaisai managed to understand her even though they practically just met each other. I'm confident in my intuition after all. Only while I'm inside a striker, that is. Is that so? Schleer could only nod to Kaisai, who replied to her with a strong smile. Oi, what are you two talking about over there? We are doing a 2-on-1, right? Let's get started already. Their conversation was interrupted by Saki's impatient words. Yeah. Come to think of it, Your Highness also pilots a Zenith, right? Kaisai asked as he glanced at Schleer's striker. It is an indigo heavy-duty striker with a large blaster cannon installed on its shoulder. In its hands is a large heavy machine gun, and there were missile launchers fixed all over its body. This machine probably packed quite a bit of firepower. The information terminal is displaying its name as Miss Tiltwine, a name that Kaisai does not recognize from the various mass-produced models' names that he is familiar with. Well, I'm a princess after all, Schleer proudly replied. Since Saki, a commoner, is piloting a Zenith type, it wouldn't do if Princess Schleer herself has to pilot a mass-produced model. There is this norm that a subordinate should not overshadow their superior to Zenith type. Well, let's do this. Okay, I will show you that my striker is not just for show, Schleer replied with a daring smile. CH-16, 2-on-1, but a thick green beam flies toward the Cleburne Revive. Although Kaisai has the photon saber in hand, he does not use it to deflect the beam and chooses to avoid it instead. That's basically a mini artillery cannon. I can see that I shouldn't take it head on. In the first place, he doesn't know if the training program will register an insane maneuver like deflecting a blaster beam with a photon saber, so he chose to seal his special move in this fight. I'm going to stop his movement. You perform a hit and run on him. Roger. Despite her complaints earlier, Saki is obeying Schleer's commands without any protest, and there, Dainsleif is maintaining the distance where it can immediately close in on their Caliburn Revive, using its instantaneous burst. Even when we managed to put him in check, Schleer fired the blaster cannon on their Miss Tiltwine's shoulder again. In response, Kaisai casually evaded its trajectory, but the direction he evaded her was immediately under fire from the heavy machine gun. A bunch of tracer ammunition ran through the space toward the Caliburn Revive, like lightning. As expected. However, Kaisai splendidly avoided that as well. His movement was so minimal and fleeting, as if he already knew where the bullet would come from. At that moment, Saki greatly accelerated and charged in. Chsto. Like hell, I'm taking that. The electromagnetic slash was unleashed along with an electric spark. It's a sword draw technique with an extreme speed that a normal person should not be able to react to, but Kaisai simply swings the photon saber and diverted its trajectory. With its blade deflected away, there, Dainsleif was swung off balance by its own powerful slashing momentum. I won't let ... Schleer aimed the blaster cannon at Kaisai to prevent him from pursuing Saki, but at the same moment, he fired 3 shots of the blaster rifle at her. Schleer manages to avoid the impact, but she also loses the chance to provide covering fire for Saki. Damn you! Using that window, Kaisai chases after the Dainsleif, but Saki operates a device on its left arm and fired a kunai-shaped projectile toward the Caliburn Revive. Kaisai twisted the body of his striker to avoid it, but by that time Schleer had already regained her bearings and the heavy machine gun's bullets are racing toward the Caliburn Revive. I'm no good with guns, but ... it's not like I can't use one, you know. Saki pulls out a small submachine gun from there, Dainsleif's waist, and aims it at Kaisai with one hand. Crossfire. This is nice. This is real nice. By flooring the pedal, Kaisai utilized the thrusters to accelerate at full power, and there, Caliburn Revive escaped the kill zone with a speed incomparable to that of the Gradius Kai. Its high performance is also something to consider. The thrusters were activated at full power for only a brief moment. However, Kaisai has a painful expression on his face due to the intense G-force. Compared to the physically stronger Volds, the fragile Kaisai will have a hard time fully utilizing the ability of his striker. But, while avoiding the ongoing barrage from the two strikers with the least movement possible, Kaisai turned his blaster rifle towards Saki and opened fire. Hey, even with your aim, something like that is only a pea shooter. His shots were blocked by the cloak-like armor. Since it was designed to provide both movement and defense functions, it can freely be moved to provide cover while keeping the striker's attack motion uninterrupted. Quite a troublesome piece of equipment to deal with. However, Kaisai's goal is not to shoot down there, Dainsleif. Even if it's only for a moment, he wanted to stop the attack from her submachine gun. So you were aiming for me after all. Using that time, Kaisai accelerates his striker toward the Mistletoe. At a long distance, Saki's Dainsleif has only a few means of attack. That's why he thought that he should crush Schleer, who has much higher firepower first. Schleer could barely avoid the beams Kaisai shot at her. It's naturally harder to avoid an attack without the locked-on warning from the system. Managing to avoid the green beams, Schleer launched missiles from the two missile pods on both feet of the Mistletoe to retaliate. With 6 missiles from each side, a total of 12 missiles fly toward the Caliburn Revive. That's not nearly enough. With the head-mounted machine guns and the blaster rifle, Kaisai shot down one missile after another. By the time the missiles reached him, only 4 missiles were left and Kaisai casually avoided them. He shot them down. Even so, she still has her gun. Schleer readied the heavy machine gun to launch a follow-up attack, but a green blaster beam made an impact on the abdomen of her striker. The training program did not judge that a single shot is enough to take down their Mistletoe, but the second and third shots mercilessly landed on the exact same location. Ugh, it's my loss. Schleer hangs her head at the word, unit lost, displaying on her monitors. Not yet, I'm still here. When Kaisai was focusing on shooting down there, Mistletoe, Saki approached him from the back and unleashed the electromagnetic slash at an extreme speed. I know. However, Kaisai made the Caliburn Revive perform a somersault and avoided the blade. The moment the blade missed his striker, Kaisai stepped on the pedal and accelerated. With the bullet-like acceleration, there, Caliburn Revive closed the distance and stuck the pile bunker to the lower back of the Dainsleif. Damn it. It's the same even in a 2-on-1. When the training program ceased her striker's functions, Saki could only curse to herself. CH-17. Reason behind his strength. How was it? There, Caliburn Revive. It felt pretty good, but I prefer the maneuvering system to be more subtle. It's been about 30 minutes since the mock battle with Saki and Schleer concluded. Currently, Kaisai is giving his impressions of the Caliburn Revive to the mechanics at the hangar. That's surprising. Our races usually prefer that we optimize the striker to perform at peak capacity, though. It's a little too sensitive for me and I think it would be difficult to handle outside of combat. Even inside combat, I don't think I will have time to adjust for the minimal differences too. Is that the case? Well, I will adjust it for you. Thank you. When Kaisai was thanking the mechanic, someone tapped on his shoulder from behind. When he turned around, he found Saki with a towel on her shoulder standing there with a dissatisfied expression. Oi. Are you free after this? Probably. After looking around, Kais replied. He was sweeping his eyes around for Schleer, but she's nowhere to be found. She probably went off to have a meeting with her staff again. Since she's a princess, she should be quite busy after all. Do you have some kind of business with me? No, you. You are. As her reply became vague, Saki turned away from him with her face dyed red. I'm a little hungry. Can you guide me to a food vendor here? TSK, can't be helped then. Follow me. Contrary to her words, Saki's expression as she replied was a bright one. Man, I'm full. As I thought, Nissan's miso ramen really is the best. After a short while, they find themselves inside a break room for pilots. Kaisai and Saki were sitting facing each other at a small table there. Both of them have already taken off their pilot suits and currently, Saki is wearing her Kalanchen military uniform while Kaisai is in his usual flight jacket. An empty styrofoam cup is placed in front of Kaisai. It was the cup noodle that he bought from a vendor here. That thing. You like it? I like cup noodles in general, you know. Even if you are clumsy in the kitchen like me, You can make a delicious meal if you follow the instructions. This thing is a victory of civilization. In front of Saki, there's a big messy pile of vinyl wrapping from the various kinds of bread she was eating. Considering that they are only having a light meal here, the amount is quite a lot. So, what do you want? You have something you want to ask me, right? Well, it's not really a big deal though. Saki looks away as she crumples the pile of messy wrapping with her fingers. It's just a little hard for me to ask. Okay. After staying silent for a while, Saki finally continues. How are you so strong? With a short pause, she continues her question as though she finally made up her mind to ask. It's a little no, it's pretty weird. I mean, I met a lot of strong guys on the battlefield, but you are just on a different level. Too overwhelming, too out of standard. Saki did hear about how he defeated Anord Zenith using a modified training striker. However, she thought that it was just some nonsense. Now, she knows full well of Kaisai's prowess, so she has no choice but to recognize his strength. I mean don't get angry, okay? I did feel like I was cheating too. Well, to put it simply, it was like a game of rock paper scissors for me. Hearing that, Saki doubtfully stared at Kaisai. What? Why are you saying it like you cheated? I'm not the kind of woman that would unfairly accuse you of cheating after I lost, all right. Still, no, your feeling is not necessarily wrong, you know. Perhaps finding that unexpected, Saki stared intensely at Kaisai. In response, Kaisai grins and lightly fidgets his fingers. In rock paper scissors, if you know what your opponent is going to play, your victory is practically guaranteed, right? Well, yeah. But if it could be done, then she wouldn't have a hard time thinking about it like this. That is what her face is saying right now. What? You are going to say that you are an Esper now? No. I'm talking about the icon system. Your striker also has one, right, Mikishima-san? Reminder, the icon system here is a bidirectional brain-machine interface. The icon system is a standard control system that comes equipped on all strikers. It perceives the pilot's brain waves, interprets them into commands, and sends them to the striker. Conversely, the feedback from the striker also transfers to the pilot's brain. This technology made the complex task of precisely controlling humanoid weapons possible. That's obvious, right? What of it? So, you know that the icon system receives the thoughts from the pilot's brain and sends them out as commands, right? Yeah. So, if you can perceive the brain waves of other pilots, you would be able to tell what they are going to do next, right? Huh? Saki raised her eyebrows. She understands the theory behind it, but the idea of pulling such a thing off is just too crazy. The icon system is technically just a control device. There shouldn't be such a function included in it. That's strange, isn't it? If the icon picks up the thoughts from your enemy, then that should interfere with the control of the striker, since it would be treated as a command, right? The deciding factor for the icon system to interpret the brainwaves as a command or not is the strength of the brainwaves. It doesn't perceive the thoughts as commands from the start. You can read those thoughts, no problem. Is that even possible? It is. I've been doing it. At Kaisai's immediate affirmation, Saki folded her arms and frowned. She could take it as a joke, but thinking back on Kaisai's movements in the earlier exercise, it certainly makes sense. There were a lot of times where she could only think that her movements had been completely seen through after all. I see. So how do I do that too? It's not like moving your body, so I can't really explain it. Each person has differences when they synchronize with the icon system after all. Kaisai's answer was merciless. However, he continued, but one thing I can advise you on would be to always keep your calm on the battlefield. If you do not have your composure with you, you won't be able to perceive the weak brain waves after all. Saki has a bitter look on her face when she heard the word calm. I'm the type that always gets heated up in battle. But you are the same, right? Getting heated up during battle is not a problem at all. You should stay as you are, Mikishima-san. Kaisai answers with a gentle voice. In fact, Kaisai thought that the ability to feel the heat of battle is necessary for a pilot. The purpose of his yell and shout during battle was to bring his spirit up after all. The point is that you keep your soul hot while keeping your heart serene. That's a contradiction, right? I guess it is. Kaisai smiled and shrugged his shoulders. Well, in the end, it's something that I can't explain with words. It relies on your sense after all. I guess so. Saki sighs. Anyway, I understand how ridiculous of a pilot you are now. About what I said earlier. Well. I'm sorry. Don't worry about it. I'm used to that already. I guess you are, said Saki as she bitterly smiled at Kaisai. It's insane to think that there's a man who is fighting on the battlefield as a striker pilot. Surely, a lot of people must have said the same thing to him many times already. But as I thought. It's not good for a man to be on the battlefield. I am certainly weaker than you, but I still can't just accept it. You don't like it after all? Of course. If you get shot down and become a prisoner of war, your fate will be worse than death. You know. Then it's fine as long as I win. I'm the strongest after all. Don't worry. Saki frowned at Kaisai's easygoing attitude and looked around. This break room is reserved for pilots, so there aren't many people around, but Kaisai is still the only man here. Kaisai sticks out like a sore thumb in this place. There are times where you might get betrayed by your allies. No matter how good you are in a striker, if it comes down to physical strength, a man can still be easily knocked down. Alright. Well. That's true. Remembering how he got preyed on by a group of girls the other day, Kaisai could only groan. The strength of average Veld women surpasses that of even the strongest Terran men. Moreover, since Kaisai is physically below average as a Terran male, he cannot possibly resist such an advance. It's a miracle that you've been safe until now. You do know that, right? I used to have a reliable manager after all. I left the firm after my last job though. Are you serious? Saki said with her eyes narrowed. From her perspective, Kaisai is too defenseless. He won't survive alone in an army full of women. Tsk, can't be helped then. I will protect you. After a while of silence, Saki said that with her face bright red. She's also diverting her eyes away from him. This is a special case, all right. You are just so defenseless that I can't leave you alone, that's all. Really? In response, Kaisai jumped up from his chair. He then holds Saki's hand and shakes it. Man, I'm really thankful, you know. Makishima-san is a good person after all. With someone to escort him, Schleer should permit him to leave his room. Kaisai was overjoyed, thinking that his house arrest had finally come to an end. Why, your hand. Saki's face was dyed crimson and she lost her ability to speak with the sudden development. She tried to say something after that, but a loud voice interrupted them before she could. Kaisai-san. So you're here. I've been looking for you. When Kaisai turned to look at the source of the voice, he saw Schleer cheerfully smiling at him. Kaisai-san, that won't do, right? If you casually touch a woman's hand like that. There will be some misunderstanding, you know. Misunderstanding? Kaisai doesn't understand what she meant, but thinking that it might be rude to suddenly hold someone else's hand, he lets go of Saki. Saki then gazes regretfully at his hands and gives Schleer a dissatisfied look. Your Highness, do you have some kind of business with me? No, not with you. Schleer, who was on the receiving end of her gaze, replied with a smile. However, the same could not be said for her eyes. We have decided on our strategy, so I came to inform you about it, Kaisai-san. Then may I join too? Since I'm the ace of this fleet, I should have the right to know too, right? HMPH. Schleer calmly nodded in reply. All right then, come with us. Perhaps it's not something that she can talk about in a break room. Schleer turned her heels and walked off, leaving the two of them to follow her. CH-18. An optimistic plan. In the first place. How long do we have to stay in this system? In the empty conference room, Saki bluntly asked as she sat down at the conference table and put one of her hands up to support her cheek. Even though we pushed them back, it's still better to leave this place as soon as possible, right? We should hurry up and join the main fleet at the front line after all. In truth, Kaisai is also curious about this. Since their last battle, their Radiant, along with its escort ships, have remained in the Bizaria system. Another engineering unit should be in charge of repairing the damaged military and civilian facilities already, so it doesn't make sense for them to stay here for so long. We can't do that, because we are at a disadvantage in this war. We cannot afford to make careless moves. Schleer replied with a sigh. If the Kalanshan army suffers more damage, it will be impossible for them to recover. Their opponent possesses a superior army. If they plan their attack poorly, they will only suffer from the enemy counterattack instead. Currently, the Norwegian army is not very active. Because of the purge bombing, they have burned down all the civilian facilities. It's like they are performing a scorched earth tactic on themselves. Even with them being a great empire, They should not be able to make their move unless they make some preparations first. Schleer continued with a complicated expression. That is natural considering that a great number of her citizens have already been made sacrifices. So, you plan to move out when the opponent starts to make their move. Schleer nodded to Kaisai, who said that with his arms crossed. For mercenaries, I think you should find fighting a defensive battle easier than an offensive one. Our current plan is to repel the Nord Empire's next offensive, reduce their strength as much as possible, and launch a counterattack. I don't want to say this but I think this plan sounds very much like a gamble. That apostrophe s. I can't deny it. Schleer looked away as she replied to Saki. If they cannot win the first defensive battle and perform well on the counterattack operation afterward, Kalanchia's chance of victory would be uncertain at best. Moreover, with their defeat after defeat, it is too optimistic to think that they can suddenly win multiple battles in a row. Dissatisfied with the plan, Saki crossed her legs. She also has her own opinions about what the Noridians are doing. Even if she couldn't win, she plans to go wild with all her might against them. Well, it will be fine. I'm here after all. However, in that dark atmosphere, Kaisai casually tells them that everything will be fine. A little difference in power is not a problem at all. It would be fine as long as we can lure commanders out to the front line. Due to the Vult's feudal system where a small number of aristocrats rule the masses, the Vult armies are vulnerable to the loss of their commanders. In a case where the aristocrats who are both their employer and leader got taken down, the common soldiers would lose their will to fight. But won't the battle become even harsher if we lure them out? Conversely, these aristocrats also understand their importance and the drawbacks of their consolidation of power. That's why these aristocrats all seek out ultra-high-performance war machines like the Zenith type to maximize their own personal combat power. The top aristocrats who have the authority to determine their war policies are especially worse, and they should consider every single one of them as a serious threat. This makes defeating multiple of such aristocrats an extremely difficult task. Well, that would certainly be impossible normally, but we can do it. I am Hokuto Kaisai. The Wicked Star, after all. There, Wicked Star, HMPH. You sure said it. Saki grins. Fine by me. I already understand that the rumors about you were not exaggerated after all. Exactly. In the end, after our repeated defeats, the only chance for us to win this war is Kaisai-san. With a serious expression, Schleer looked into Kaisai's eyes. Her aquamarine-colored eyes have complex emotions behind them. After all, she already understood deep down how pathetic they are to rely on a single man to win the war for them. The Third Fleet is specialized in mobility and striking power. To put it in perspective, we are the spear of the Kalanchia Empire, and you are our spear tip, Kaisai-san. That is good enough for me. No matter what kind of opponent it is, I will win this for you. You are very confident, Kaisai-san. Not only his pilot skills, but this man is also brimming with confidence. Thinking so, Schleer smiled to herself. For the time being, that is all I can tell you right now. Are you satisfied with this plan, Lieutenant Makishima? Yeah, well, Saki bluntly responds. Meanwhile, Kaisai raised his hand. If the meeting's over, may I speak to you about something unrelated? What is it? Schleer asked with a smile. It's about my movement restriction. Makishima-san here offered to be my bodyguard. That's why I'd like to ask for permission to leave my room. Without answering Kaisai, Schleer turned to look at Saki with a smile still on her face. So it's like that, huh? Said Saki with a daring smile. No. Why? Isn't it fine as long as his safety is guaranteed? Kaisai thought. Kaisai-san's escort will be me. I've been busy for the past few days, so I must apologize to Kaisai-san for the inconvenience, but please don't worry. I will accompany you outside of your room as much as possible from now on. There's no need to trouble Lieutenant Makishima at all. What are you saying, Your Highness? Your Highness must be busy, right? It's fine. I will take care of this guy for you. Leave him to me. Oh, that wouldn't do. It's a knight's job to escort a gentleman after all. Even during wartime, I can't possibly push away my responsibility, Schleer said as she looked at Saki with an elegant smile. I was knighted too when there, Dainsleif, was assigned to me though. Being a knight is not about all the formality, it's a way of life. Why are they fighting over such a silly thing, I wonder? Feeling the atmosphere tensed up, Kaisai holds his head. I'd be grateful if either of you could be my bodyguard, you know. Anyway, "Thank you very much for your kindness. I will contact whichever of you who's free at the time," said Kaisai as he sighed at the two who are staring daggers at each other. CH-19. The poisonous flower. "My, oh my, I heard that you were shot down but ... I'm glad that you are safe." Inside the Adele Vanson, flagship of the Nord's Kalanchen Expeditionary Fleet, a woman is sitting on top of a throne-like command seat at its bridge. There was no hiding that her voice was filled with mockery. My sincere apology for the inconvenience, Anu. The repair of the Orthokratzer has been completed. I am ready to return to the front line at any time. TLN. For those unfamiliar with my style, Anu equals esteemed, elder, sister. The person who is currently knelt down and replied was none other than Valentina. Seeing her like that, a faint smile floated upon the woman's face. "That is good to hear. Because of your failure, the operation had to be delayed. Finally, it's the time we crush that upstart of an empire." Hearing her sister said that with a small giggle, Valentina raised her head and narrowed her eyes. The beautiful woman on the command seat has gorgeous curly long hair and purple eyes. Moreover, despite her short height, she shares a great resemblance to Valentina. The army under this Dairos Vista Agrin knows no defeat. The responsibility I'm carrying is not to be compared to that of someone on the last of the succession line like you. Understood? Of course, Anu. Seeing no change in Valentina's expression, Dairos sighed. She then cracked the whip in her hand. "We will carry out the operation to capture their capital at 0400 standard times tomorrow. The enemy's force is small. It should take their all to muster up a defense against us. We will leave the minimal amount of troops behind to defend and make an all-out attack. Then, may I take it that Anu will head out as well?" "That's obvious, right?" Dairos nodded with an evil smile. "Once this operation is over, all of the Kalanchen territories will be in our hands. There are 14 habitable planets. If we allocate that to some appropriate aristocrats and transfer the surplus commoners there, the overpopulation problem of our empire should subside for a while. Volds are extremely fertile. Their rate of population growth is incomparable to that of Terrans. And since resources are limited, the number of people who have lost their homes and jobs steadily increases over time. Even so, for us to resort to purge bombing. No. For us to unnecessarily slaughter their people, will it not cause antipathy from them afterward? Normally, in a colonial war such as this, the population of the losing side would be forced to board transport ships and deported. However, Dairos chose not to do that. Instead, the Noridian fleets are bombing the planet's surface in an inhumane operation. How many times do I have to say this, little sister? The longer we take to control the citizens of a country that we have no obligation to protect, the longer our people have to suffer. We must have our priorities straight, don't you think so? Dairos responds with a grin. However, such a reason is only an excuse. She simply dislikes putting time and effort into the deportation. It is clear from the fact that she chose such a hardline approach from the get-go. That's why we have to take control of these planets as soon as possible for our beloved citizens, you understand? In response, Valentina nodded reluctantly. Although both of them are princesses, the person who is the closest to the seat of Empress is Dairos. Valentina, who is very low on the succession ladder, had no choice but to act as a subordinate to her. Good. I've sent a file detailing the outline of the operation along with your order to your staff. Do not disappoint me now, understood? Yes, Mom. That will be all. You are dismissed. When Valentina nodded and tried to stand up, Dairos evilly grinned at her. By the way, I heard this funny story earlier, you see. What kind of story is it? What kind, you asked? It appears that there's a man who doesn't know his place and is piloting a striker. You should know about this better than anyone, no? For the first time, Valentina's expression was distorted for a moment. She fixes that immediately and raises her voice. Anu, that's cuckoo. Don't worry, my beloved sister. I have no plan to make fun of you as a weakling who lost to a man, said Dairos as she stood up from her command seat and walked down toward Valentina with imposing footsteps. She then puts her hand on Valentina's shoulder and smiles. A man who piloted a junk striker and took down a Zenith. Don't you think he's quite a wild steed? And you see. This is it, showing him the reality and reminding him of his rightful place. Don't you think that such a thing is exactly my responsibility as the next Empress? When Dairos let go of her shoulder and cracked her whip again, Valentina secretly grits her teeth. The wilder the horse, the greater the pleasure when you tame it. Don't you think so too, Kikukaku? The expression of Dairose, who continued to crack her whips, is a lustful one. Knowing that her sister is a hardcore sadist, Valentina takes a deep breath and imagines the scenario where Kaisai falls into Dairose's hand. At worst, he would lose his life, and if not, he would cease to function as a human being. However, it is clear that there is no point in trying to convince her sister. What this sadist loves more than anything else is to make everyone submit to her, be it men or women. And as her sister, Valentina is no exception. She must not unnecessarily show an opening her sister can exploit by saying something extra here. Well, that man would certainly be the perfect gift for Inu. Powerless as I am, please let this Valentina be the one who fetches him for you. Kikukaku, you said it. I will make an exception and give you the front row seat of when I devour that manhole. Oh, what a considerate elder sister I am. Seeing Dairose's laughter, Valentina began to ponder how to outsmart her sister and make Kaisai her own. CH-20 comeback signal. The news that the Noridian fleet had made a move quickly spread through the Kalanchen army. The target of the Noridians' offensive this time is the Kalanchen capital in the Alp system. If the capital is taken, the Kalanchen will no longer stand a chance of turning the table. Naturally, the Kalanchen is mobilizing all of their remaining ships to intercept it. 14 battleships and 30 large type cruisers belonging to the Noridian fleet are in formation. A large number of enemies is yet to be confirmed. Kaisai was listening to the operator's report inside the cockpit of the Caliburn Revive. With a straw in his mouth, he is drinking strawberry milk while looking at the star chart displayed on the console. Since this is going to be a decisive battle where two major forces collide, the predicted battlefield is a gigantic one. The plan is for our fleet to take a detour route and flank the enemy from behind. So basically, what we are going to do here is a hammer and anvil strategy. We are going to act as the hammer in this battle, Kaisai-san. Schlier further elaborates on the operator's explanation. The essence of this operation is for the main Kalanchen fleet to hold back the Noridian fleet while the third fleet under Schlier launches an assault on the enemy central command. It may seem difficult to even identify the battlefield in the vast void of space, but in reality, that is not the case. FTL, faster than light, navigation for ships usually requires a fixed route called Starway, where it is completely safe to travel and has many unmanned lighthouses installed at regular intervals. An implementation of Starway is very costly and there are not many of them around. That's why the enemy's invasion route can be easily predicted. This will be a long and dangerous mission. I'd like, Your Highness, communication just came through from the First Fleet. They've made contact with the enemy's Vanguard fleet. They are in the middle of combat, Mom. This is too early. They already started. Initially, they predicted that the Kalanchen main fleets would come into direct contact with the enemy in half a day. It appears that the enemy's advance is much faster than they expected. Due to the enemy's electronic warfare and sabotage, the main fleet's detection network has been paralyzed. They want us to perform a reconnaissance mission and confirm the location of the enemy's main force for them, Mom. Certainly. Our fleet is located far away from our main force, so we would stand a better chance to pull this reconnaissance off, but this is going to be a dangerous mission right off the bat. The commander of the First Fleet is Queen Alicia Henrietta, Queen of the Kalantia Empire and Schlier's mother. Schlier cannot afford to disobey her order, so she can only groan on her command seat. As an aside, although she is on the bridge, she has already changed into her pilot suit and is ready to sortie at any time. Naturally, she has the responsibility to command her fleet, but in a Vold army, it is common for the commander to take to the field herself. Since her staff and other high-ranking officers can handle commanding the fleet in her absence, there is no significant impact even if Schlier goes to the front line. There's no other way. Let's sortie the 3rd and the 4th companies to conduct a reconnaissance. Considering the safety of our fleet, we cannot dispatch too much force though. Within the 3rd Fleet, only there, Radiant, has a decent operational capability to dispatch strikers. The destroyers escorting their Radiant only have 2 strikers on board each at most. If they dispatched too many strikers on this recon mission, the fleet would be practically defenseless if the enemy launched a surprise attack on them. I will sortie too. Kaisai-san? Schlier thought for a moment about Kaisai's proposal. It's a dangerous mission, but with Kaisai's ability, he should be able to deal with the situation even if it turns into a battle. If that's the case, then she will be able to conserve her forces as well. Then please do. Lieutenant Makishima, please accompany him. Yes, leave him to me. Schlier sighed a little at Saki's triumphant face on the monitor. This is bitter for her, but she can't assign herself to a recon mission. After all, the time that Schlier has to head out would be when they are in a decisive battle. Even with her officers around, there is still a limit to how much they can do. Operator, send the predicted location of the enemy fleet to Kaisai-san's Striker. Yes, Mom. An electronic sound rings out inside the cockpit of the Caliburn Revive. Displaying on the console now is the location data that the operator sent over. It's a place not that far from their current location. We have prepared ride boosters at the launch deck. They can sortie at any time. Mom. Good. Kaisai-san, Lieutenant Makishima, please scout ahead for us. Roger that. After acknowledging their order, they proceed to the launch deck in their Strikers. Inside the catapult deck, a large motorcycle-like machine. A ride booster was there, ready to launch. Kaisai made the Caliburn Revive straddle on it with no hesitation. Ride booster connected, the AI announced. Besides using it to break through the atmosphere, a ride booster can help increase the operation range significantly in outer space using its large amount of propellant and high-performance boosters. They were indispensable for long-range operations. Course cleared. Catapult's voltage level normal. Launching permission granted. Aye. After confirming that the blast deflector had shut behind him, Kaisai activated the thruster at full power and the blue jet flame burned the deflector. Hokuto Kaisai, Caliburn Revive, launching off. The moment he pressed the switch on the control stick, the catapult deck accelerated the Striker with a tremendous force and launched it out to outer space using electromagnetic induction. When the G-force from the acceleration assaulted his body, Kaisai let out a small groan. Makishima-san's also safely launched her. After completing the initial acceleration, Kaisai looks back and sees that Saki's Dainsleif was also catapulted out from the deck and is now flying behind their Caliburn Revive. So the target location is the Slager system. Let's take our time so that we don't exhaust our propellant. Roger. While Kaisai nodded at Saki's reply, he pressed the switch on the console. The FTL navigation technology is a technology that frees objects from the constraint of relativity by reducing the apparent mass of the Striker to zero and accelerates it to a faster-than-light speed in an instant. That being said, although it is a mature technology that has been developed for more than 100 years, it is still not completely safe. Entering FTL navigation mode. Energy bypass check. Normal. Reverse gear connected. Flywheel reversal starts. When the AI announced so, a golden wheel appeared behind the Striker. The main engine then makes a strange growl and the tachometer immediately shoots to the limit. Taking a deep breath, Kaisai pushed a button on the control stick. FTL navigation starts. The light of the numerous stars on the main monitor bleeds into lines. And eventually, the lights change into 7 psychedelic colors. Alright. Good boy. Kaisai was a little worried about the FTL navigation since he's piloting a modified Striker, but there seems to be no particular problem. Looking at the instruments inside his cockpit, it appears that the Striker is steadily breaking through the speed of light and is now moving across space at tremendous speed. After sighing in relief, he operated his mobile terminal and played light and easy pop music in the cockpit. I guess this will take some time, huh? Let's prioritize the safety here. Whispering so, Kaisai gazes at the rainbow-colored space flying past him on the monitor. CH-21. How to fight an interstellar battle. 2 hours after they departed from there, Radiant. Kaisai and Saki have crossed several star systems and are approaching their target location. Sporadic battles with the Norwegian army have begun in other theaters, but so far they have not encountered any enemy in their path. It was a peaceful trip. Oh, the jet's amazing. The only thing that can be done to kill time is gazing at the universe. Kaisai raised his voice while watching the pale jet cones erupting from above and below the white dwarf at the center of the star system they just flew past. Don't even think about approaching that thing, alright? It won't just end with you getting blown away after all. Even I wouldn't just go off and play during missions, you know. Really? 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 They were having such a casual conversation, but suddenly, a warning sound started blaring inside the cockpit. Hearing that, Kaisai reflexively turns his eyes to the monitor. Reaction from the TADA, TLN. I think it's attaching radar. The quantum sonar is ... There are high-mass FTL reactions. An enemy, Saki, who seems to have seen the same reading, shouted. In the current era, where means to travel at faster than light speed have been established, there are also technologies that enable enemy detection in another star system that are more than a few light years away. Naturally, since strikers are designed to travel at FTL speed as well, such detection devices come equipped with them as standard equipment. If it's this size, then it must be a battleship class. Moreover, there are 4 of them. Escort ships are also detected. Do you think they are part of the enemy's main force? Maybe, but this is still only a small number compared to the initial report, right? Isn't it possible that their main force is somewhere else? The report said that the enemy's main force consisted of 14 battleships. If there are only 4 here, then it is possible that they are just an enemy's raid unit. Since they were tasked with finding out the location of the enemy's main force, if they report this in and turn out that they are actually a separate unit, then they would fail their objective. No. Our opponent is a large army and they only have one target. They should have no need to split up their force and perform a separate assault. That's true. Then these guys must be their advance guard, huh? If so, then there's a high probability that their main force is right behind them. Saki calls up the star chart and looks into their possible locations. The star systems in this area are located close to each other. Saki is currently looking into the star systems that are connected via starways, which are within tens of minutes of travel time via the FTL navigation. Hey, since it would be bad if we sent back vague information, maybe we should confirm it with the Pinja. That's a little risky, but I guess we have to. Kaisai proposed to fully activate the active sensor and expand their search range. Naturally, there are also disadvantages to this method. The enemy will be able to pinpoint their location. If that happens, they would immediately dispatch their interceptor. However, to confirm that they have indeed found the enemy's main force, they have no choice but to do this. With no hesitation, Kaisai activated the active sensor. The search range displayed on the monitor greatly expanded. As they expected, a large number of reactions were shown behind the advance guard they discovered. It appears that this is indeed the enemy's main force. As I thought. Let's call it in. With that said, Kaisai operated the panel on his console and sent the information to the Radiant via an encrypted channel. With them being very far away from the fleet, voice communication is unavailable at the moment. After all, the enemy has already jammed the communication in this system. Now, what do we do? Their interceptor will be coming at us soon, you know. Well, as a mercenary, it would be rude for me to not give them a warm welcome. Kaisai grinned and equipped the Caliburn Revive's left hand with the anti-ship grenade launcher from its back. He didn't forget to bring spare ammunition to this mission as well. With this, he should be able to sufficiently handle the anti-ship warfare that is about to unfold. You serious? I heard that you rushed straight toward 2 battleships the other day, but this time there are 4, you know. My combat power has also doubled since last time. It's a fair game, right? You really are insane. Tsk. No choices then. Saki is uneasy about this, but her pride as a woman does not allow her to retreat while a man is going out to fight. Shaking her head, Saki forced a smile to her face. I don't have any anti-ship armaments on there, Dainsleif. I'm going to provide support only. All right. Yeah, I'll leave my back to you. Saying so, they entered the FTL navigation mode and headed toward the enemy fleet. Naturally, the enemy also detected their approach since their ships are equipped with high-performance enemy search equipment. Launching an interception, multiple strikers are launching off from the launch deck of their battleships and cruisers. The sorted Noradian strikers are now in an interception formation. A high degree of training can be observed from their organized positioning. After a moment, Kaisai and Saki arrived at the star system they are traveling in. Accompanied by a flash of blue light, the golden wheel behind their strikers disappears. Ugh! There's a lot more than I thought. Are we really going to do this, Hokuto? It's not just a lot, but there's no backing out now, right? Or shit, you're right. Let's make some fireworks and head back. Whether it was due to good or bad luck, the location where Kaisai and Saki exited the FTL navigation ... was extremely close to the enemy fleet. Considering the sense of distance in space, they practically appeared in front of the enemy. Without sparing them even a moment to breathe, they have already reached the engagement distance. Incoming! Countless crimson beams flood toward Kaisai and Saki. The anti-aircraft guns from the fleet also opened fire. Both Kaisai and Saki abandon their ride boosters and take evasive maneuvers, but the enemy's attack is relentless. The powerful beams that each could potentially blow up their strikers send chills down their spine. It will be easier on us if we are in melee range. We are going to use their strikers as covers and approach the fleet all right. There's no other way, right? If they keep firing at us like this, we will be blown to pieces even before we can land a hit on their ships. Saying so, cold sweat started to gather on Saki's forehead. CH-22. A forceful reconnaissance. They are everywhere. Now you can pick whichever opponent you like, right? Isn't it more like we're rats in a cage? Kaisai and Saki have such a conversation while avoiding the beams flying at them from all directions. The number of enemy strikers is more than 30. In addition, there are 4 battleships and multiple escorts consisting of several battle cruisers and destroyers. Since they put themselves in this situation, it could be called an act of suicide. No matter how many there are, a green beam fired from Kaisai's blaster rifle pierced through the abdomen of an enemy jetter. While gracefully avoiding dozens of return fires, Kaisai fires another shot and scores himself another one. I will take them all down. That's how I do things. Can't you be more considerate towards someone who has to accompany you? Even while complaining to Kaisai, Saki's movement did not show any openings. By using the thrusters on the cloak-like armor covering the Dainsleif, she skillfully accelerated toward the enemy, and with a single flash from her sword, the shield-bearing jetter was bisected. Well, sorry about that. Ahahahahaha. You're totally not sorry about this at all. Saki raised an agonizing cry, but the Norwegian side also shared her sentiment. After all, despite the fact that they have a large fleet, they are having a hard time fighting against 2 strikers. From both sides' perspectives, this battle is outrageous. Damn it, I thought that the first guy was crazy, but the one following behind is insane too. Take some distance. Fighting against a Zenith is a bad idea. Even if you say that. You are. The muzzle of Kaisai's blaster rifle flashed again, and although they had already taken an evasive maneuver, the enemy striker's abdomen was struck by the blaster beam. It was a high-precision shooting that almost gave the illusion that the beam just homed into their striker. It's not like we are any safer away from them, right? I'm going in. Cover me. An impatient pilot rushed her jetter toward the Caliburn Revive, with its longsword unsheathed. You idiot. Damn it. Her wingman had no choice but to provide support fire as she rushed in. In response, Kaisai grinned and returned fire. The 2 beams collide in the empty space and scatter into particles of light. You are kidding. That's the spirit. I will play with you. Kaisai let go of the anti-ship grenade launcher and took out a photon saber with their Caliburn Revive's left hand. The 2 strikers fly past each other and bright sparks scatter. Even if I lose in power, their jetter skillfully parried Kaisai's photon saber. The pilot is confident enough in her swordsmanship to challenge Kaisai into close-quarter combat. However, Kaisai pulls the trigger on his control stick. The head-mounted machine guns fire at their jetter. The small-caliber bullets do not have enough penetration power to get through a striker's armor, but what Kaisai aimed at was the enemy's main camera, TSK. While switching to the sub-camera, the pilot holds up a shield to defend against Kaisai's advance. However, Kaisai had already read she would do that. He sneaked around to the side and stuck his bile bunker to their jetter's flank. Accompanied by a crushing sound, their jetter's engine was pierced and ceased to function. Kicking away their jetter, which was rendered a piece of junk, Kaisai retracted the stake and fired a wire gun at the waist of the Caliburn Revive. It would be bad if I lost this. The wire gun hooks the anti-ship grenade launcher, which was floating idly in space with its special suction anchor, and instantly rewinds it back to the Caliburn Revive, while the photon saber has already been put away at the hard point on the chest. Oi, Hokuto! Saki shouted at him with a serious voice. However, Kaisai does not answer and simply shoots his rifle behind him. Their jetter, that was taking aim at Kaisai from behind, was shot through. I know, thank you, TSK. I told you I'd have your back, right? Saki replied with a bitter smile. Her voice was a mixture of relief and amazement. Let alone behind him, it seems that this man has no blind spot. Anyway, we managed to get closer to their fleet. They are worried about friendly fire, so they can't fire a barrage at us. It's your chance. Go. Okay, leave them to me. Kaisai floors the pedal. There. Caliburn Revive, then shot straight like an arrow toward the enemy fleet. It is impossible for the mass-produced strikers to catch up to a newly built Zenith. Several strikers take aim with their blaster rifles to try stopping him, but Saki fires her submachine gun at them, preventing their sniping. The G. Kaisai groans while enduring the G from the acceleration. With the Caliburn Revive being a high-performance unit, the acceleration was painful for Kaisai's fragile body. However, if he wants to win this, he has no choice but to bear it. When he flew out of the battle line, the enemy fleet's anti-aircraft guns resumed fire at their Caliburn Revive. Not only the normal anti-aircraft blaster cannon, but the high-power blaster cannon of the battleship's main guns also ruthlessly fired toward him. I'm gonna vomit. Like hell, I'm going to get hit by that. Although he was already screaming from the pain, his evasion maneuvers are still sharp. There, he finally reached the broadside of his targeted battleship. Let's go, Kaisai shouted so and grit his teeth while pulling up the control stick. There, Caliburn Revive, then immediately rose up. With a blaster rifle in one hand and an anti-ship grenade launcher in another, Kaisai pulled the trigger. Beams and missiles fly toward the enemy battleship. The radar array installed on the bridge was blown off, and a moment later, the missile made its impact, causing a huge explosion at the propulsion engine. But it doesn't end there. Kaisai continued to pull the trigger until the 4-slot magazine of the grenade launcher was empty. The empty magazine then automatically ejects out the back, and Kaisai accelerates his striker once again. As I thought, that's not enough, huh? While flying away from the exploding battleship, Kaisai looks back to confirm the destruction of his target. However, some of the huge armored thruster nozzles of the battleship are still operating. It would be difficult to say that this battleship has been incapacitated. Seeing that, Kaisai smiled under a rough breath. Alright then, one more time. After mounting the blaster rifle at the hard point located on the hips, Kaisai reloaded the grenade launcher with a new magazine. Then, while avoiding the barrage of anti-aircraft bullets, he turned back and accelerated toward the battleship. CH-23. Noblesse oblige. Finally, Kaisai sighed inside the cockpit of the Caliburn Revive. It was 3 minutes after his initial assault on the battleship that he rendered it immobile by repeatedly hitting its propulsion engine with all anti-ship missiles he brought. However, since the main engine and guns are still operable, they can still dish out heavy firepower. It would be hard to say that he took it down, but at least it should no longer be able to participate in further battles. This result should be sufficient for the time being. You seriously went and did it, huh? It wouldn't be strange if they give you a medal for this, you know? Saki laughs as she evades the enemy's fires, which are still continuously pouring toward her. While Kaisai was busy taking out the battleship, it appears that she also took down multiple strikers herself. I've never heard of a pilot who took down a battleship alone, you know. Seriously. Alone? We did it together, right? While leaving the battleship, which is spewing out black smoke behind, Kaisai replied. Although he has taken out one of the battleships, the enemy still has 3 battleships and many other escort vessels. The high-power particle cannons they are shooting are lighting up the blackness of space like an aurora. It's an aurora of death that you would die if even a single one hit you. If you have a strong partner that you can leave your back to, then you would have peace of mind doing your things right. In fact, the reason why Kaisai was able to reach the enemy fleet so quickly was because of Saki. It may sound bad, but Saki acted as a decoy for him. Besides, even if they choose to ignore her, their, Dainsleif, and Saki's skills are more than enough to prevent them from interfering with Kaisai's work. When that comes from you, it sounds a bit sarcastic, you know. Saki bitterly smiled as she bisected another jetter. While ignoring the wreckage of the enemy strikers she cut down, their, Dainsleif, blew its thrusters and joined up with the Caliburn Revive, which was flying away from the enemy fleet. Shut up. I was being serious, all right. Yeah, I'm so happy. A beam from the blaster rifle of the Caliburn Revive, and there, Dainsleif's katana each caught another enemy striker, taking them both down at the same time. Even if they are piloting a Zenith, aren't they just too strong? Balbunker. Don't tell me that White One is the rumored Wicked Star. Even though they are the elites of the Nord Empire, if they get beaten so one-sidedly like this, it is natural for unrest to spread through their ranks. Despite them still having an overwhelming advantage in numbers, the Norwegian pilots felt like they are on the brink of defeat. Be firm. Do you think you can still call yourself a proud soldier of House Eldegood like this? One person shouted at the pilots. The voice was an aged yet inspiring one. It came from a blue striker who had sorted from one of the 3 battleships that are still unharmed. Countess, Lady Rosia has come. The fleet commander, Rosia von Eldegood, has come out on her personal zenith. On top of seeing their commander sorted without regard to her own safety, the Norwegians' morale, which was declining, began to recover when they realized that a zenith is joining their side. Still, this is bad. However, Rosia herself is having cold sweat inside her personal striker. She is already old enough to be someone's grandmother. She has never neglected training, but she doesn't think that she can compete with the 2 Kalanchen Zenith, especially after she saw their earlier rampage. Nevertheless, she came out here because she was strongly urged by her staff. A noble who hides in a safe place during a crisis would lose the respect of their fellow aristocrats as well as the commoners. At the core of Vuld culture, being an aristocrat is the same as being a warrior. Once branded a coward, both their subordinates and the commoners would turn away from them. If that happens, let alone fighting a war, she would have a hard time ruling her own territory. Rebuild the formation. If we fall into confusion now, we will play right into the enemy's hand. Yes, Mom. That being said, the effect of having their commander on the field is tremendous. Even Kaisai and Saki can feel that the enemy pilots are moving better now. Oi, that blue one. That must be the enemy's commander. Man, the Norwegian commanders all have guts, huh? Kaisai grinned. Rather than a ferocious smile, the smile on his face is a cheerful one. It indicates that he is truly enjoying this. In truth, Kaisai is honestly impressed by the fearless attitude of the enemy commander who came out to the battlefield directly after being shown the disparity between their skills. Still, if the enemy commander comes out, then we have no choice but to respond in kind, right? Let's go. TSK, and I thought that we can finally head back too. Can't be helped then. I will go with you. After returning the grenade launcher, of which ammunition has already been exhausted, to the back, Kaisai took out a photon saber. He then immediately accelerated. Naturally, he's beelining toward the blue zenith. They're coming back. Don't let them get close to Our Lady. Fire, fire, fire. The Norwegian strikers fiercely fired their blasters to intercept them, but Kaisai avoided what he could and parried the rest while continuing to rush toward the blue zenith with unstoppable momentum. No, you won't. Rosia took out a long blaster cannon. Instead of Kaisai, her aim is fixed at Saki. This is because she realized that it would be easier to hit her rather than Kaisai, whose skills are in a different dimension. Hey, oh ooh, scary. However, Saki casually evaded the extra-large beam fired toward her. After all, despite being overshadowed in this battle by Kaisai, she is still the top ace of the Kalanchen army. TSK. Rosia ejects the empty particle cartridge and reloads another round into her cannon. She then quickly takes aim at the Dainsleif again. However, by that time, the 2 strikers had already shortened the distance between them. I take it that you are the commander of this fleet. My name is Hokuto Kaisai, a mercenary. This is Caliburn Revive. I challenge you to single combat. So it comes to this after all, huh? Rosia regretfully muttered. Even if she turns this down, she is no longer in a position she can escape. Saying that she won't accept it due to her fleet's superiority will not cut it either. She has 2 options here: either refuse and be disgraced, or accept it and get killed in action. If she is disgraced here, not only her but her trusted confidants and even her children would be ridiculed for it. And thus Rosia made her decision. Countess of Alphen, Rosia von Eldegood. There, Grise Wraith, accept your challenge. To be honest, I never thought that I'd come face to face with a male pilot. CH-24. Damage and strategy. Communication coming in from the advance fleet. The enemy Zenith have withdrawn, Mom. At there, Adele Vanson, flagship of the Kalanchen Expeditionary Fleet. Inside its poor-taste and needlessly luxurious bridge, Dairo squinted her eyes at the reports from her operator. Damage assessment. Yes, Ma apostrophe M. The battleship, Augusta, was incapacitated. The commander, Countess Rosia of Alphen, was defeated in single combat. However, she is uninjured and can return to front line immediately. Mom, I don't care about that sorry old hag. I can replace her anytime I want. I'm talking about the strikers. 14 were destroyed, but it appears that all pilots are safe, Mom. Dairos cracked her whip. In response, The operator slightly jumped. What a ladylike thing to do. It brings tears to my eyes. Don't you think so? Why, yes, Mom. All strikers were destroyed with their pilots spared since the enemy only targeted the engine. Saki also disliked useless killings, so all Norwegian pilots were unharmed and rescued later by their battleships. How is the state of the Augusta? Is it possible for it to join the operation later? It appears that the propulsion engine has been completely destroyed, Mom. It is currently being towed by its escort vessels, but it needs to be docked for at least half a month to repair to the extent that it can navigate on its own. 2 months would be required for it to operate at full capacity again. So the enemy was at Thoroha. While stroking her own cheek, Dirose's lips curved up. If they had targeted the bridge instead of the propulsion engine, that ship would have turned into space debris already. The propulsion engine is a known weak point, so it is carefully armored. Because of that, its durability is comparable to other important sections. One could say that it's a vital part of the ship. It is unusual for a striker that only has access to minimal anti-ship armaments to cause that much damage. After all, the battleships reign as a symbol of power on the battlefield because they are not easily sunk. And they did that with only 2 strikers. No. If we count only the one with anti-ship armament, then it's actually 1 Kyukaku. Such disgrace is unheard of, don't you think? In ancient times, there were many cases where strikers sank battleships, but that only happened because one side deployed a large number of strikers and overwhelmed the other side in a saturation attack. No matter how powerful the Zenith types are, Dirose has never heard of a case where 2 strikers taking down a battleship before. It is exactly as you said, Ma apostrophe Our deepest apology. Intimidated by Dirose, the operator reflexively apologized. Of course, she is in no way to be blamed for this loss. However, Dirose's reply was sadistic all the same. Seriously, what a bunch of incompetent dogs. If the operator had defended herself or taken the punishment while showing her dissatisfaction, she may be at risk of getting beheaded without trials. That's why she didn't say anything extra and kept shaking in fear. So the enemy pilot, is it confirmed that it's the rumored mercenary? Why, yes. In the single combat against Rosia-sama, he announced himself as Hokuto Kaisai. Reports from those on site also confirmed that it was a male's voice. There is no doubt that it was him, Mom. Fu. Kyukaku. I see. So there really is such a strong male pilot, huh? This is going to be fun. Dirose speaks to herself with an amorous smile on her face. There is not even a shred of any anger or dissatisfaction of seeing her war potential diminished in her expression. She truly is enjoying this. Your Highness. This still hasn't changed the fact that this is a terrible situation for us. After all, we have already lost one of our battleships even though the full-scale offensive has not begun yet. A middle-aged officer nervously cautions Dirose. The Norwegian side still hasn't discovered the location of the Kalanchen main force. Not only that, the position of their main force is currently known to the enemy. This disadvantage in information and the loss of one of their battleships may impact negatively on their overall war effort. There's no problem with losing 1 or 2 ships, right? Not to mention that the one we lost belonged to an aristocratic army. In other words, they are just outsiders. The elites under the direct control of the Empress are still completely safe. No? What do we need to be afraid of? Certainly, we still have an overwhelming advantage overall. However, I think that even a single defeat, albeit an insignificant one, would taint your Highness's glory. The difference in strength is overwhelming. It would be strange if they cannot obtain an overwhelming victory in this war. The staff is worried that if they show even a small sign of struggle, it would tarnish Dirose's reputation. Let the incompetent dogs bark all they want. No matter the process, the victory will be mine in the end. After all, I'm the great Dirose Vista Argarin. Dirose proudly declared so. Understood, Mom. The staff nodded with a small sigh. Dirose's track record is enough to support her arrogant words and overbearing attitude. She has a long experience in the army. Moreover, every battle she commanded resulted in victories. The fact that Dirose has risen up to the first in the succession line despite having multiple older sisters is attesting to that. Then let us rethink our strategy, Mom. Now that the enemy has discovered our location, they should be able to predict our first target. Perhaps it would be unwise to retain our course? No, The front line is already being established. We have no time to withdraw and draft up a new plan. If she turns her fleet back here, she would be effectively abandoning the Vanguard fleet that is still in the middle of combat. The Vanguard fleet consisted of smaller vessels like destroyers and cruisers, so it is true that they are easier to replace than battleships. However, considering that such replacements would have to be dispatched from their homeland, it will take some time for them to get here. This operation will decide the fate of the Kalanshia Empire. It would not be wise to give them more time to prepare. The operation will continue as is. Our course will remain unchanged. What, even if they know where we are heading, it should be easy for us to predict where they will place their defense. We just have to be well prepared and break through. Your wish is our command, Mom. Diarose grinned at the staff, who accepted her order with a bow. That being said, leaving 1 or 2 battleships aside, we managed to obtain some valuable information. Don't you think that luck is on our side? Meaning, the staff was puzzled. Right now, she can only think about how the enemy's previous assault would leave a negative impact on their operation. I'm talking about Hokuto Kaisai. Don't you get it? The more something is difficult to obtain, the more valuable it is. I want him all to myself more and more now. Do you want to get your hands on that man to such an extent, Your Highness? Of course. I started to get interested when I heard that he beat back my sister. But if he's going to appear in front of me and stand in my way Kyukaku, it would be impossible for me to say that I'm not interested at all, right? I will inform our personnel to try and capture him alive if possible, Mom. The staff answered with a bitter expression. The opponent is no ordinary pilot. She doesn't know how much damage he will cause once they meet him in battle. I will leave that to you. Kyuku, I look forward to messing him up. While gazing at the image of the universe displaying on the monitor, Diarose muttered, CH-25, enemy's target. Phew, we are finally back. Kaisai said as he stretched his muscles after he stored their Caliburn revive at their Radiant S hangar. He spent quite a long time inside the narrow cockpit, so fatigue has accumulated because of that. Man, I didn't think that we would be able to get back in one piece. I thought I was going to die, you know. You were with me, so it's all good, right? I have never had a wingman crash on me, you know. While cheerfully replying so, Kaisai took out a lollipop from the holster wrapped around his thigh. He quickly unwrapped the wrapping and put the strawberry flavor candy into his mouth. Hey. Why do you have a lollipop inside your holster? When you get tired, you need a way to replenish your sugar, right? I mean, why inside the holster? Saki asked with a tired expression. Why, you ask? There's nowhere else to put it in a pilot suit, right? No, just put a gun in there. What are you going to do if you need to fight outside your striker? Even if you give me a gun, I'm so bad that I'd just end up shooting my allies in the back. You know, there's no way a person who can shoot a blaster rifle with no lock-on assist like you can be that bad, right? Saki unintentionally retorted in a loud voice. To shoot without lock-on assistance means that the pilot did not rely on the computer of the striker. It's something that can't be done unless the pilot is a very skilled sharpshooter. Well, that was not really my shooting skills though. You too, good work. When Kaisai was about to continue, he was interrupted by Schleer, who ran up to them. Although she probably did not see any battle on her end, she looks a little excited. You gave me a surprise. I never thought that you would have gone ahead and taken down a battleship. I didn't take it down, you know. I just made it impossible to navigate by itself. Certainly, giving them some time, that battleship would show back up on the front line, but with its propulsion engine completely wrecked, it should take them a few months to fully repair it. This is a big deal, you know. Wahaha, I was just living up to my reputation as the strongest. With a reliable partner, 1 or 2 battleships are nothing for us, right, Makishima-san? I'm not going to do that ever again, alright? It is insane to challenge an entire fleet with only 2 strikers. To combat a fleet with strikers, you would normally need several dozens of strikers. Even with the Zenith types that boasts high performance, the pilots are still living beings of flesh and blood. It should be impossible for them to compensate for the workload required of dozens of people. See, certainly, the earlier battle really was pushing it. I am happy for such a great battle result, but it would be bad for us if you were to get shot down. That's exactly right, Your Highness. Please do something about this guy. Seriously. Schleer shook her head from side to side and lightly tapped her cheeks. She then turns her gaze toward Kaisai. No matter how strong you are, It should be easier for you if you have support. Please do avoid picking a fight where you would be outnumbered in the future, Kaisai-san. Please. If it becomes a decisive battle, I can participate in the battle and provide fire support for you using their, Miss Tiltwine, you know, self-promoting at every chance. Did you say something? Nope, nothing. Being stared at by Schlier, Saki turned away and whistled. Kaisai had to narrow his eyes while wishing that they can get along a little better. So we now know the position of the enemy's main force. What is our plan? That's right. I will explain the plan to you now. We will get pretty busy very soon after all. At Schlier's nod, a blue-haired woman in a high-ranking officer uniform suddenly appeared at her side. She's someone Kaisai met once when he first arrived at there, radiant. Solana. Please do the explanation. Understood, Mom. The woman nods with a serious expression and sophisticatedly bows to Kaisai. Indeed, this woman is a military officer who received first-class training. I'm the Martial Lord, Colonel Solana Wilbent. I must apologize for not introducing myself the other day. In the Vold aristocratic system, an aristocrat may be given an official position instead of a territory. A Martial Lord is one of such positions. In terms of rank, hers is the equivalent of Marchioness, but her official position is in the army. In Kalanshia, her nobility status should be quite powerful. A Martial Lord? That's amazing considering that you are so young. I was only pressed into this position by my mother. I still have a long way to go. Without acting shy at his praise like most women, Solana replied so and cleared her throat with a small cough. From the location of the enemy's main force, we were able to predict their plan. We think that the first target of their operation is planet Laboya Alpha, in the Laboya system. Laboya? I see, so that's their plan. Saki groaned. However, for Kaisai, who is unfamiliar with this area, he is clueless about the significance of that name. Noticing that, Solana further elaborates. The Laboya system is a small star system with one red dwarf at its center and a small rocky planet with almost no atmosphere orbiting it. The Supple base on that planet has been established as a relay point for the operations of our based squadrons. A based squadron is a unit consisting of small crafts like strikers and missile vessels that operate from fortresses instead of motherships. Since they do not have a mothership, they have a fixed operation range, but in a defensive scenario, they can be quite useful since they can deploy strikers in large numbers. If the enemy takes control of this supply base and repurpose it into their striker base, then the Noridian strikers will be able to invade the capital using only the ride boosters. The Noridian army will be able to assert dominance over us, and the Kalanshia Empire will stand no chance of winning this war. So they do not plan to only utilize the prowess of their fleets alone. Yes, from the calculation based on the Noridian main force's location, their fleet will have to pass through the Laboya system before it reaches the capital. Also, the base at Laboya Alpha, albeit not well equipped, they still have some defensive equipment. If they plan to invade your capital using only their fleets, then they would have no need to go out of their way and choose this route, right? Yes. I am ashamed to say, but not all routes to the capital have fortresses defending them, said Schlier while diverting her eyes away from Kaisai. The Kalanshia Empire is a small country, and due to budget issues, it is not possible for them to construct fortresses on all routes. That's why we decided to establish a defensive line around Laboya Alpha. Fortunately, it shouldn't take long to do that since our main force is located near the Laboya system. But if that's the case, then is this situation not bad for us, Colonel? Considering our current position, the enemy may arrive at Laboya earlier than us, right? Saki raised a point. Currently, the Third Fleet is a little too far to intercept the enemy. If the Noridian fleets head straight toward the Laboya system, they might not be able to make it in time for the first engagement. Well, since our main force will be in charge of directly engaging the enemy, we should think of ourselves as a flanking unit instead. Is that so? Saki was worried that everything would be over before she could get a turn. Well, that's why we are currently heading toward the Laboya system at full speed. It will be some time, so please take a good rest for now. So it will be a while before we deploy? I understand. Hokuto, let's go. You are hungry, right? I will treat you to something. When the conversation was concluded, Saki pulled Kaisai's hand and started walking away. Seeing that, Schlier chased after them in a hurry. Please wait. I have a little free time as well. I won't let you two go alone. Behind the three who are steadily moving away, Solana let out a long sigh. If you just want to support me or have a particular novel in mind that you'd like to request, please join my Ko-fi or Patreon. The links are below. Once again, thank you Momo Clan.